Chapter 1138. This Heavenly Mystery Pavilion's business is really good. Amidst boundless space outside the world beyond worlds, two youths sat facing each other within a concealed blessed land of a foreign dimension. A white-clothed youth waved the jade talisman in his hand, a complex expression on his face. Big brother, could it be that this Yen Zhaoga cultivates in the origin heavenly scripture as well? Otherwise, how could he know so many lost secret recipes? The white-clothed youth was the earthly young master, Chun Kuanhua. Opposite him was the purple-clothed youth, who sat lazily on the wooden armchair. This was naturally the upper exalt, Chun Qianhua. What did the secret pavilion come up with this time? Qianhua asked, a look of interest on his face. Without waiting for Chun Kuanhua's reply, his eyes flashed a few times before he answered his own question. Oh, the life-risking pill? That's right, it's the life-risking pill. Chun Kuanhua was used to his brother's behavior. The life-forsaking pill was a spirit medicine of pre-great calamity times, a supreme treasure of a major martial power. After a martial artist took it, they would be able to greatly increase their strength in a short period of time. However, after the medicinal effects wore off, they would become extremely weak. It would damage the foundation of their blood and qi. If it was not properly nurtured, there would be serious side effects. However, in a life and death situation, it was the best weapon to use. It could help him escape and even kill his opponent. Its effects were not great for martial saints who had ascended the immortal bridge, as it was mainly used for martial practitioners below the immortal bridge realm. Even so, the effects were still very powerful. If not for the fact that Yen Zhaoga had not lacked the raw materials previously, he would have wanted to prepare a few when his cultivation base had still been low. Therefore, once it was introduced, the sacrificial pill became a very popular treasure. Many of the treasures sold by the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion seem to be matched. Chun Kuanhua smiled bitterly. Let's not talk about the impending rain plate and the formation-breaking pestle. First, they sold the heaven-fleeing 7-rotation talisman. Then they bought the anti-space forbidden stone. Even I, who didn't buy it, would call them profiteers. The space reversal forbidden stone was similarly a rare treasure of pre-great calamity times. Its function was to seal off an area of the void for a short period of time, making it difficult for others to enter or leave. Warriors who were strong enough and had a deep understanding of the profound mysteries of space could try to break through. But such an expert would most likely not need the heaven-fleeing 7-rotation talisman. Therefore, from a certain point of view, the anti-space restriction stone was the perfect counter to the heaven-fleeing 7-rotation talisman, compared to the formation-breaking pestle, which countered all the formations in the world, and the impending rain plate was merely incidental. The anti-space restriction stone's restriction on the heaven evasion 7-rotation talisman was even more direct. The prosperity of the martial Tao in pre-great calamity times was even greater than it is now. Many a time, when a supreme martial art or a wondrous treasure appears, as time passes, methods to counter it would emerge. Chun Qianhua said nonchalantly, there are many similar cases, so it is not surprising at all. In these 3 years, this Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion has produced a total of 34 rare treasures that had been lost after the Great Calamity. Chun Kuanhua shook his head repeatedly. 34! And this doesn't even include the treasures that he made at the behest of others. Otherwise, I suspect that there would be more than 50 of them. Nearly 3 years had passed since the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets officially opened for business. It would be the 3rd anniversary of the pavilion's opening next month. During these 3 years, the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion had already officially become the most famous business and treasure pavilion of the world beyond worlds, becoming a legendary existence in the hearts of the masses. At the same time, He also gradually weaved a huge network of relationships. Because of the short period of time, this network was still not solid, as it was more of an alliance of interests. Even so, however, its influence had already spread throughout the entire world beyond worlds. On the third anniversary, the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion made a new move. As the organizer, they held a grand auction for the world beyond worlds. Not only would the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion auction their own treasures, they would also auction off the treasures of others. Because this was the first time they were holding an auction, they would not charge an intermediary fee this time. As soon as the news spread, winds surged and clouds surged as the entire world beyond worlds seethed with excitement. A grand event rarely seen in recent years was about to arrive. From the looks of it now, Yen Zhaoga established the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion not just for profit, but also for fame and influence. Chen Kuanhua had a solemn expression on his face. His elder brother Chen Qianhua shrugged. He is doing this to prevent the earthly sovereign from returning and the concealed sovereign from making things difficult for his broad Creed Mountain due to the matter of the dim radiant wheel and his mother. If the earthly sovereign and the concealed sovereign come to an agreement, the pressure on the sword sovereign will be immense. At that time, even if he can protect the father and son, he might not be able to protect Xue Chuqing. Chen Kuanhua nodded slowly. I think so too. This is rather interesting. Chen Qianhua smiled, casually retrieving a jade green talisman and handing it to his younger brother. Receiving it, Chen Kuanhua suddenly thought of something. Big brother, could this be? I did not take the matter that Wang Zhengcheng has always entrusted to me. Still, I might as well do it now. An excited look appeared in Chen Qianhua's eyes. I wonder how that Yen Zhaoga father and son will deal with it. Chen Kuanhua inhaled deeply, keeping the jade green talisman. A pity that you cannot personally take action this time. Big brother, previously you were subjected to the saber-piercing punishment, using your recovery and cultivation as one. It has yet to end. If it is interrupted, all of your previous efforts would be for naught. That is not important. If it is interrupted, so be it, Chen Qianhua said casually. Chen Kuanhua instantly smiled bitterly. Big brother, it is still better to go all out in one go. Let's see how it goes. Chen Qianhua waved his hand nonchalantly. I might take action or I might not. If Wang Zhengcheng takes action, and I personally participate, that would be too boring. I am not very interested in it. If the Yen family father and son can display another shocking performance, I might even join in the fun. His gaze flickered slightly, no longer being so lazy as he appeared very interested. He was actually viewing the earth exalt Wang Zhengcheng as a chess piece in a game with Yen Zhaoga. The earthly young master Chen Kuanhua was not surprised by this. While he felt rather helpless about it, he would not be his elder brother if it was not like this. Thinking of that jade green talisman, Chen Kuanhua knew that the earth exalt Wang Zhengcheng was also trying to make use of his brother. Everyone was taking what they needed. As for the final result, that would depend on their own methods. Recuperate first, big brother. I will send you to Qilin Cliff right now. Go, go. Chen Qianhua waved his hand nonchalantly. Chen Kuanhua took his leave of his elder brother and left that blessed land, traversing numerous layers of space as he returned to the world beyond worlds. He was cautious in preventing his tracks from being exposed and being tracked to Chen Qianhua's secluded residence. While Chen Qianhua himself did not mind, Chen Kuanhua had no choice but to do so. After returning to the world beyond worlds, Chen Kuanhua hurried to Kunlun Mountain, arriving at southern High Peak's Qilin Cliff. The earthly sovereign had yet to return to the world beyond worlds. The one presiding over the situation here was still the earth exalt Wang Zhengcheng. Seeing Chen Kuanhua, Wang Zhengcheng's expression was calm. Why have you come here, little friend Chen? To deliver something to my brother. Chen Kuanhua answered solemnly. Hearing his words, Wang Zhengqing's expression did not change as he nodded slowly. It would be great if the upper exalt is willing to help. Chapter 1139. Chen Kuanhua took out that jade green talisman and passed it to Wang Zhengqing before saying, "My brother's previous injuries have yet to recover. He might not be able to act personally this time." "No matter. This is already enough," Wang Zhengqing said. "The piercing saber torture destroys one's qi and blood. It will not be easy for him to recover from his injuries. Take care, upper exalt." Chen Kuanhua said, "Kuanhua thanks Elder Wang for your concern on my brother's behalf." He did not ask Wang Zhengqing what he intended to do next, as he said directly, "Since the item has already been delivered, this junior will take his leave first. Please wait, Elder Wang." "Take care, little friend Chen." Wang Zhengqing nodded, calling for someone to send Chen Kuanhua off. After sending Chen Kuanhua off, Li Juanxin, who was in charge of sending off guests, returned to the cave manor. "Master, could this item have been—" "That's right. Speaking of which, that was over 20 years ago. We asked Upper Chen to act back then, but he ignored us in the end." Wang Zhengqing shook his head. His willingness to act now is probably due to his enmity with the Yan father and son. Still, it is not too late. There is still time. The old man handed that jade green talisman to Li Juanxin, instructing him on how to use it after the matter of Star Reflecting Lake, and having been tricked by the Brocade Emperor, Li Juanxin had already stabilized his mind, remaining as calm as ever. Nie Jingshan, having ascended to the human exalt stage before him, even shocking immortals in battle, did not deal much of a blow to Li Juanxin as he continued to cultivate steadily. The current him could also step through that final bottleneck at any time, attaining the human exalt stage and attaining the human exalt stage. "Send this item to that person," Wang Zhengqing said. "Wait for the right moment." Wang Zhengqing said, "Quietly wait for the right time. When the time comes, it will be the time of a storm." Li Juanxin nodded steadily. "Yes, master." He walked out, pausing after a few steps as he turned and said, "Master, the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion's daily profits are still secondary. The key is that its influence is growing, vaguely showing signs of gathering people's hearts. Right now, it's still too early to stir up any waves. But in the long run, if things continue to develop at this rate, their intentions will be damned." Li Juanxin frowned. However much Yan Zhaoge builds up his momentum, it would still be impossible for him to stand shoulder to shoulder with Grand Master. Still, with the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion clearly tied together with the Northern High Peak now, this momentum falling on the Sword Sovereign's shoulders has instead caused the Sword Sovereign's might to grow more and more majestic. Yan Zhaoge's profit is only secondary. He is clearly secretly pointing his spear at my Qilin Cliff, at Grandmaster, and you. Wang Zhengqing smiled faintly. That is to be expected. Looking at the Yan clan's exiled immortal's conduct in the past, he has never been someone who waits passively. If he can seize the initiative, of course he will not let go of the opportunity. If we had been on good terms with him and lived in harmony, he wouldn't have done so many things. It is just that many things do not change according to one's will. Fallen deity Yan and his mother, Xue Chuqing, will bring immense trouble to our world beyond worlds. We will naturally not sit by and do nothing about it. Even if we feel some pity for talent, we can only set this aside for now. A look of pity appeared in the old man's gaze. This is especially so for fallen immortal Yan. Like you, Juanxin, he has already heard of the name of the immeasurable heavenly lord before attaining the human exalt realm. That great future of his has also become unclear now. News from the Brocade Emperor states that Yan Zhaoge has not planted the seed of the immeasurable heavenly lord within his mind like Fu Ting. Still, that is impossible. Still, this also makes things less difficult for us. Hearing his words, Li Juanxin was silent for a moment before he said, Master, the matter of the immortal court and the immeasurable heavenly Lord for the continuation of the orthodox lineage of Taoism, there are many times when we have to endure hardships. This is especially so when there is likely to be a turn for the better in the future. If we take a risk before that, we might instead bury our hopes and sacrifice ourselves for nothing. Wang Zhengcheng looked benevolently at his disciple, his gaze also filled with pity, the dim radiant emperor and the bright connection emperor, as well as some others may have been thinking for our Taoism. Still, if they were rash, they would only end up causing endless trouble. It is just a pity that you, Juanxin, met with a tribulation for no reason due to the accident caused by the brocade emperor. Li Juanxin said, This disciple need not worry for this disciple, master. As you say, there might be a turn for the better in the future. If this disciple is unable to live till then, that is also fate. As for Yan Zhaoge, this disciple also admits that he is indeed a rare genius. Still, since he has gone astray, we can only give up on him. This person's capabilities truly cannot be measured by the standards of ordinary martial practitioners. Not only is he shockingly talented in the martial Tao, he has actually caused such a great disturbance in establishing the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion within a short 3 years. Wang Zhengcheng smiled. It is precisely because he has caused such a great disturbance that the Snow Crane might let down her guard. This disciple somewhat understands now. Li Juanxin pondered as he said, creating an illusion that the Sword Sovereign's influence surpasses that of Grand Master, creating an illusion that the Yen father and son are incomparably domineering. Only then would that Snow Crane feel safe, thinking that there is no longer a need for her to continue hiding, that her family will be able to protect her, and that the world beyond worlds will be hard-pressed to continue hunting her down. Only then would she stop hiding and instead reveal herself. Li Juanxin raised his head to look at his master. After all, if she could reunite with her family and enjoy the bliss of a family, that Snow Crane would definitely not be willing to be separated from her flesh and blood, making it hard for husband and wife to reunite. Right, making use of kinship. While this method might be a little underhanded, it has been the most effective one up until now. Wang Zhengcheng slowly shook his head. Still, since Upper Chun is finally willing to help now, this method is actually no longer needed. Li Juanxin asked, Should we try to suppress the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion then? Of course not. 3 years have already passed. Why be in such a rush? Wang Zhengcheng smiled. Moreover, fallen deity Yen has caused so many lost treasures to reappear in this world. It is a good thing for our Taoism to prosper once more. This disciple will send them over now then. Li Juanxin bowed, saying. He then thought of something. The Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion will be holding an auction next month. As this is the first time they have done so, I believe that it will be greatly influential. Yan Zhaoge and the others will also place considerable importance on it. This way, a great deal of their attention will definitely be drawn in. If we can just happen to succeed here, things will be much easier for us. Wang Zhengcheng gazed into space. I hope so. If this old man's calculations are correct, it should be happening very soon. As for whether we can make it in time for the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion's auction, that will have to depend on fate. Various plans were being made on Qilin Cliff. Meanwhile, within Dragon Butterfly Valley, Yan Zhaoge was making the final preparations for the upcoming auction next month. The current Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion had already completely established itself. Their 3 years of hard work had not been in vain after all. If this auction were to be held successfully, their position as the head of the industry would be hard to shake. Still, Yan Zhaoge now received a piece of news that left him scratching his head. The Brocade Emperor has sent word that he will be participating in the auction this time? Yen Zhaoge looked quizzically at Ahu before him. Do you know which brocade emperor it is? Chapter 1140. Which brocade emperor? While Yen Zhaoge's words sounded rather laughable, it was actually a very serious question. The black-clothed brocade emperor and the white-clothed brocade emperor were completely different in nature. Ahu was very clear about the difference, so he answered solemnly, the one in black. Black-clothed, Yen Zhaoge knit his brows slightly, whether it was from the perspective of Yen Di and the grand simplicity splendor cloud, or from the perspective of Meng Wan and Fu Ting, Yen Zhaoge and the black-clothed brocade emperor were enemies. All these years they had been able to coexist peacefully. It was only because everyone had restrained themselves, and the black-clothed brocade emperor was not in the world beyond worlds most of the time. It's from Ingenious Flying Peak, who said helplessly, it's confirmed that it's the man in black. While he intended to eliminate Fu Ting and Meng Wan, the black-clothed brocade emperor bore no enmity towards the others of Ingenious Flying Peak. Of course, there were no emotions to speak of. However, to him, disciples were not dispensable existences. They were also beneficial to him. Naturally, he would not give them up so easily, unless those of Ingenious Flying Peak clearly supported the white-clothed brocade emperor or obstructed the black-clothed brocade emperor. As for He Shishing and the others, they maintained a neutral attitude. To them, be it the white-clothed brocade emperor or the black-clothed brocade emperor, they were still the lord of Ingenious Flying Peak from back then. Regardless of who won in the end, Ingenious Flying Peak would ultimately still be ruled by the brocade emperor, while the black-clothed brocade emperor seemed a little hard to get along with. They naturally wouldn't go against him. Besides pretending not to know anything about the white-clothed brocade emperor and Fu Ting, Ingenious Flying Peak would also strictly comply with whatever requests and orders the black-clothed brocade emperor had. Fortunately, before a victor had truly been decided between the two brocade emperors, be it the black-clothed or the white-clothed, they had not made things difficult for He Shishing and the others. Everyone could finally heave a sigh of relief at this. While they knew that the black-clothed brocade emperor seemed to be on bad terms with Yen Zhaoge and Broad Creed Mountain, those of Ingenious Flying Peak did not know the specific reason for this, as they still hoped that they could help the two sides ease their relationship as much as possible. Therefore, He Shishing had personally gone to the Prophecy Pavilion as a representative to contact his master. He also hoped that the Prophecy Pavilion would agree and not fall out with them. What he did not know was that the conflict between Broad Creed Mountain and the black-clothed brocade emperor was virtually irreconcilable, unless the black-clothed brocade emperor was willing to stop at his current cultivation level for the rest of his life, unable to advance any further. Agree to it, Yen Zhaoge thought for a moment before agreeing. Yes, young master. As Ahu looked over with a surprised gaze, Yen Zhaoge lightly rubbed his temples. When things are abnormal, there must be a reason behind it. I want to see what he is planning. If we don't let him come, it will be hard to track his whereabouts. Since that's the case, we might as well let him in. When Qiu Jiahai, who was presiding over the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion, heard the news, he could not help but feel greatly shocked. The black-clothed brocade emperor has come. If things get out of hand, and things get out of hand, the auction will not be able to continue. He is an emperor, after all. Don't worry, Mr. Qiu. Her Majesty, the Empress, will also attend this auction, Hu explained. Hearing this, Qiu Jiahai immediately felt relieved. So that's how it is. Then there's no need to worry. He then asked curiously, right, where is junior apprentice brother Yen? The goods to be auctioned this time have all been gathered. Why is he still in Dragon Butterfly Valley? Young master, he's taking care of the meat left behind by young madam. Ahu smiled innocently. Qiu Jiahai was stunned. Little meat. Xiao AI coughed dryly by the side. Actually, Mr. Cho, you might have seen her in Dragon Butterfly Valley before. Little meat is that little black dog. Oh, I have indeed seen her before, Chiu Jiahai recalled now. Still, he was a little doubtful. Ah Hu explained. Little Meaty is a beloved pet that young Madam reared in the past. After our clan had established a foothold in the Royal Reed Sea that year, young Madam brought Little Meaty up to the world beyond worlds from the Eight Extremities world. Afterwards, young Madam left Broad Creed Mountain for safety reasons. In recent years, it has often been young Master who has been taking care of it. Feng Yunsheng had been out adventuring, and even her own fate had been uncertain. She had naturally not brought Little Meat along with her back then. At the end of the day, it was just an ordinary little black dog that was not even a beast. Her earlier decision had been proven to be a wise one. Little Meat just happened to be sick these past 2 days. As there is still some time before the auction begins, young Master intends to take care of it first before coming over. Ah Hu explained. As an ordinary dog, Little Meat's lifespan should have long since come to an end. Some spirit medicines that could extend one's lifespan were of no use to martial practitioners with high cultivation bases and powerful fleshly bodies. Still, if Little Meat were to be fed them, it would still be able to extend its lifespan by quite a few years, even if it did not follow its owner into the heavens. Therefore, it was still alive and kicking now. Of course, it could still be infected with diseases. In Dragon Butterfly Valley, looking at the little fella before him, Yen Zhaoga tapped its head. Yunsheng raised you to be too greedy back then, daring to eat anything. Now, you must have suffered. The little black dog whimpered rather aggrievedly, wagging its little tail by Yen Zhaoga's side. It was gradually recovering now. Little fella. Yen Zhaoga stroked its neck, turning and saying to the massive entity on the other side, "After I leave, I'll leave it to you. You better be more reliable." Pan Pan, who resembled a small mountain, blinked his eyes, nodding in a seemingly simple and honest manner. In terms of usefulness or potential, the little black dog was naturally incomparable to this Pichio. Still, at the end of the day, keeping pets had never been just for guarding the house. And a certain glutton who had the ability to guard the house was often not that reliable too. Yen Zhaoga deeply suspected that Little Meat would be toyed with by Pan Pan when he was not around. He did not know if it was a misconception, but a certain fatty who was becoming more and more human-like and intelligent seemed to be growing more and more black-bellied. Because Ahu had touched its ear once, this fellow had immediately turned around and ruthlessly rewarded Ahu on the spot. Ahu's tragic cries from back then still seemed to be reverberating by Yen Zhaoga's ears even after a few years had passed, letting Yen Zhaoga know just how mournful a person could be. Meanwhile, a certain fatty had an innocent look on his face afterwards, looking as though he had done it first. Ahu wanted to cry, but had no tears to shed. This little fella, Little Meat, I have been a little too spoiled these past few years, spoiling it even more than Yunsheng. This is not good. I should find someone to play the good cop before I play the good cop. Yen Zhaoga seemed to be reflecting on himself as he very irresponsibly ignored Little Meat's lifeless gaze, tossing it to Pan Pan before leaving Dragon Butterfly Valley and heading to the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. After remaining in Dragon Butterfly Valley for a few more days, when Yen Zhaoga arrived at the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion in Yuanzhou City, it was already nearing the start of the auction. He had naturally not stayed in Dragon Butterfly Valley purely for Little Meat previously, as he had still had other matters to attend to. Now, however, everything was finally ready. Still, coincidentally, when Yen Zhaoga arrived at the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion, the skies above Yuanzhou City just happened to be filled with purple qi. Seeing this, Yen Zhaoga's gaze flickered slightly. Oh, the Brocade Emperor? Chapter 1141. Arriving at Yuanzhou City at the same time as the Brocade Emperor was not within Yan Zhaoga's predictions. The purple aura in the sky rippled slightly. It was obvious that the other party was also surprised. A black-clothed man appeared amidst the purple sea of clouds. His features were handsome to the point of being incomparably handsome, his demeanor dazzling. It was none other than the Brocade Emperor. Black-clothed Brocade Emperor. His expression was indifferent, and his eyes were calm like water without the slightest fluctuation. He simply didn't seem like a living being that was filled with intelligence. Or, it should be said that they did have intelligence, and they were above the masses. However, it was not agile, so much so that when he looked at others, it was as if he was observing and sizing up lifeless existences. The black-clothed Brocade Emperor was currently looking at Yan Zhaoga. Ever since their parting in the 9 underworlds, this was the second time Yan Zhaoga had met this black-clothed Brocade Emperor, who had switched to the unfeeling Tao in order to help the Sword Sovereign accumulate power. Yan Zhaoga had often intentionally or unintentionally made his figure fade in the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. Therefore, while the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion was famed throughout the world beyond worlds, most people were not very clear on the exact relationship between them. Most people were also very unfamiliar with the relationship between Xiao AI and Yan Zhaoga. Still, the higher echelon experts of the world beyond worlds all knew that the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion, which had caused such great waves in the world beyond worlds, was precisely Yan Zhaoga's handiwork. It was all thanks to the Yan family's banished immortal that dozens of long-lost treasures were able to reappear. While the black-clothed Brocade Emperor did not reside in the world beyond worlds, he clearly understood this very well. He was currently appraising Yan Zhaoga even more carefully than when they had first met in the 9 underworlds. Yan Zhaoga's expression was as per usual, as he did not feel uncomfortable in the slightest despite being stared at by a true immortal. The Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion is greatly honored by the visit of the black-clothed Brocade Emperor. He cupped his hands in greeting, saying indifferently, "Whatever treasure your majesty has taken a liking to, you can just ask your disciples to come over. For you to personally come, this Yan is overwhelmed by the favor." Hearing Yan Zhaoga's way of addressing him, the black-clothed Brocade Emperor stopped observing. Still, his expression did not change in the slightest. "Does the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion have what I want?" The black-clothed Brocade Emperor asked calmly. The corners of Yan Zhaoga's mouth arched upwards slightly, but there was no smiling intent within his gaze. "The thing that your majesty wants the most is naturally there. Still, your majesty is destined to be unable to pay the price. Therefore, your majesty should settle for the next best thing, considering other options. That way, you won't return empty-handed." Hearing Yan Zhaoga's sharp reply, the black-clothed Brocade Emperor was not angered as he remained indifferent. "There is no need to be in such a hurry to refuse. It is still too early to say whether I will be able to get what I want. Still, if the Brocade Emperor wishes to inspect the goods today, I'm afraid that you will still be disappointed," Yan Zhaoga said, as he observed the black-clothed Brocade Emperor. The other party was unperturbed. "It doesn't matter. Since I'm here, I naturally won't miss out on today's grand occasion. Speaking of which, it's rare in recent years." Yan Zhaoga spoke no further as he nodded slowly. "Those who have come are guests. Please come in, Brocade Emperor." The two of them descended to Yuanzhou City and arrived at the Pavilion of Heavenly Mysteries. With the Brocade Emperor's status, be it friend or foe, he would naturally be treated as an esteemed guest before they had completely fallen out. The token plate of ingenious flying peak in the Pavilion of Heavenly Mysteries was of a very high grade in the first place. Having developed for the past 3 years, the Pavilion of Heavenly Mysteries had long since been properly trained in etiquette and manpower. A receptionist, led the Brocade Emperor to a private room where he could be seated. Yan Zhaoge, naturally, had a place to go as well. Xiao Ai, Ahu, and Qiu Jiahai had long since been waiting there. Even Wang Pu was present as he asked upon seeing him enter, "What is the purpose of this black-clothed Brocade Emperor's visit?" It is still unclear. Still, it can be confirmed that he has come with ill intentions and wants to cause trouble. After sitting down, Yan Zhaoge sipped on his tea as he said, "Still, seeing how he is not making a move now, I feel that he is probably not the only one who wants to cause trouble." The expressions of Wang Pu and the others all turned solemn. "Should we inform junior apprentice brother, Nya, to come over?" Qiu Jiahai asked. Yan Zhaoge lightly rubbed his temples. "It is still uncertain what the other party wants to do now. It is best for senior apprentice brother, Nya, to remain unmoved. It is just that I would like to ask him to shift his position and not remain in the region of Thousand Lakes. The southern blazing heaven territory is currently not the main focus. It would be better for senior apprentice brother Nya to temporarily move to the area between the central June Heaven territory and the southeastern Yang Heaven territory." Wang Pu and Qiu Jiahai both nodded slowly before Wang Pu said, "The white-clothed Brocade Emperor cannot be contacted, and there is no news from Ingenious Flying Peak either. With the black-clothed Brocade Emperor here, the most suitable person to deal with him would naturally be his old enemy, the white-clothed Brocade Emperor, with the Four Grands earlier heaven flag, currently in the hands of the white-clothed Brocade Emperor. If no other immortal realm experts intervene to help him, the black-clothed Brocade Emperor would only be able to avoid him wherever he appeared. Previously, the two Brocade Emperors had competed with one another, spending most of their time in extra-dimensional space. Now that the black-clothed Brocade Emperor had returned to the world beyond worlds, Yan Zhaoge and the others would naturally think of a way to inform the white-clothed Brocade Emperor to return as well. Family had said that Miss Fu is temporarily unable to contact that white-clothed Brocade Emperor as well. Who hurriedly answered now. Yan Zhaoge put a hand on his forehead. "It doesn't feel like a coincidence. It seems like something must have happened that has hindered the white-clothed Brocade Emperor. Could this be one of the reasons why the black-clothed Brocade Emperor has the confidence to swagger over to the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion?" Everyone exchanged looks, all feeling as though a great, formless net was currently enveloping them. Yan Zhaoge was not flustered, as he was just rather hesitant. What exactly is their goal? Is it really here at the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion? In a lower world, a group of martial practitioners was currently congregating, heading towards the wound of the sky that led to the world beyond worlds. The ruler of this lower world was known as the Rinsing Flower Sect. The Rinsing Flower Sect originated from this lower world, later establishing its foundation at Fog Tea Mountain in the eastern vast heaven territory of the world beyond worlds. Every few years, the Rinsing Flower Sect of the world beyond worlds Fog Tea Mountain would send a batch of disciples to that lower world. On one hand, they would maintain their control over it, and on the other, they would temper themselves. Now, a new batch of disciples had already descended to the lower world. Meanwhile, the previous batch of disciples who had been stationed there earlier would be allowed to return to the world beyond worlds. The previous batch of disciples was naturally overjoyed. Still, someone was dissatisfied. I heard from the new senior apprentice sister that the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion is currently holding its 3rd anniversary celebration. Sadly, we won't be able to make it in time. Everyone else laughed. Only our chief and the elders of our Rinsing Flower Sect can participate in such a grand occasion. Even if you were in the world beyond worlds before this, what does that have to do with you? Chief, and the elders will definitely bring their disciples along to serve them. Why can't we have the chance to go along and broaden our horizons? The first person retorted. Everyone laughed and talked amongst themselves, actually not really taking it seriously. There was only one female disciple who seemed to agree with everyone on the surface, though her gaze was slightly lost in thought. I really never thought that husband Zhaoga and the others would actually be able to accomplish such great things, she thought leisurely, yet sighed. Sadly, I still cannot go see you. While it seemed like the time was already ripe for their family to reunite, with someone in the world beyond worlds able to protect her and give her a place to stay, still, having lived as a fugitive for so many years, this woman was very vigilant as she did not relax at all. This was because she did not wish to bring trouble to Yan Zhaoga and Yan Di, who had just managed to establish themselves with much difficulty. She would rather suffer a little. Still, I never thought that husband would actually be the son of the exalted gold luminary. The woman's brows knit together as she was concerned about something else. The exalted gold luminary is of the same generation as my great-grandmaster. Doesn't that mean that I'm 2 whole generations younger than husband? What kind of joke is this? Chapter 1142. Li Lin, a martial grandmaster, disciple of the world beyond worlds, eastern vast heaven territories, Fog Tea Mountains, Rinsing Flower sect. This was the current identity of the martial saint Xue Chuqing. Due to her efforts, she had successfully entered the ranks of the Rinsing Flower sect disciples who had descended to the lower worlds over 10 years ago, living a low-profile life there ever since. Now that a new batch of disciples of the Rinsing Flower sect had descended to the lower worlds, it was time for them to return to the world beyond worlds. Xue Chuqing did not attempt to remain in that lower world alone. Everything went with the flow. Too many deliberate actions would easily leave behind traces that would be discovered by those who were pursuing her. The best place to hide a leaf was a forest. If a leaf suddenly turned into a flower, however dense the surrounding foliage, it would still be conspicuous. After all, those who were searching for her had much sharper eyesight than a hawk. He was an ordinary person, quietly being a leaf. If he could stay on the branch, he would stay. If he wanted to fall to the ground, he would fall. After falling and being buried in the soil, she would instead be reborn a second time. The fate of the Rinsing Flower sect disciple, Li Lin, was already destined to be ordinary and unremarkable. After returning to the world beyond worlds from the lower worlds, she would perish while out adventuring. Apart from a few fellow disciples of the Rinsing Flower sect, whom she was more familiar with, this would not cause much of a stir. There were only so many places to go missing in the lower worlds. The so-called danger zones were limited even for peak experts who could remain in the lower worlds, making it easy to find them. It was different in the world beyond worlds. Countless people were vanishing every day. Xue Chuqing was already very familiar with such a life. In order to avoid being tracked, she could not stay in the same place for too long. Occasionally, she would leave her true name out of the need to set up a diversion. Still, she concealed her name like this most of the time. Drifting from place to place, there was no end in sight. Still, Xue Chuqing was not in a constant state of panic. Even as she remained vigilant at all times, she also had a big heart that sought joy amidst hardship. For example, what she was currently feeling conflicted about was not that she had to continue fleeing for her life. Instead, it was her seniority with Yan Di. Ah, so annoying! Xue Chuqing thought hatefully in her heart. I can't calculate it from the relationship between great-grand-master and father-in-law and mother-in-law back then. In any case, we are not of the same sect, so we have to talk about our own matters. Yes, that's it. Junior Sister Li, what's wrong? Someone beside her asked curiously. Don't tell me you still miss this place. Xue Chuqing, or rather, Li Lin, came back to her senses. She shook her head and said, Not at all. I'm just regretting that I can't make it to the Pavilion of Heavenly Mysteries' 3rd anniversary celebration. Everyone said, That's right. Although our chances aren't high, It would be great if we were chosen by the sect leader and the elders to participate in the auction. Staying in the world beyond worlds, there would at least be a chance. Coming down here, there is no chance at all. It's the same for the new batch of seniors and juniors. Speaking of which, I'm afraid they're even more regretful than us. Everyone discussed animatedly, while Xue Chuqing fell silent once more. Actually, she didn't feel any regret. Compared to these rinsing flower sect disciples, Xue Chuqing knew more. These fellow disciples only knew how powerful the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion was now, and how close it was to the lineage of the Sword Sovereign at Northern High Peak's Jade Capital Crag. Meanwhile, as soon as Xue Chuqing heard that the current manager of the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion was Xiao Ai, she knew that it was Broad Creed Mountain's handiwork, the handiwork of her husband and son. Still, she didn't intend to look for Yen Zhaoga and Yen Di now. She was proficient in the Tao of divination, and even possessed a supreme treasure like the river diagram. Yet, she had never divined matters pertaining to Broad Creed Mountain. This was to avoid people who were similarly searching for her, through divination discovering her traces and targeting Yen Zhaoga and Yen Di, while Broad Creed Mountain had already gained a stable footing in the world beyond worlds, even having a backer like the Sword Sovereign. Xue Chuqing was instead even more vigilant. Those who were looking for her might be waiting for her to relax and reveal a flaw. Therefore, even as she missed her kin, Xue Chuqing still forced her heart to be as calm as still water at this moment. Was it not also a way of dispelling one's worries by thinking about one's seniority with Yen Di in a playful manner? Xue Chuqing was currently completely fine as she rose into the air alongside her fellow disciples of the Rinsing Flower sect, passing through the wound of the sky and returning to the world beyond worlds beneath the protection of the sect's treasure. She had long since surpassed the third level of the Martial Saint realm. Still, she was naturally acting like everyone else now. Still, just as she was passing through the wound of the sky, some unease suddenly arose within Xue Chuqing's heart. A hint of danger was indistinctly present. Instantly, Xue Chuqing's heart was filled with alarm. To her, if it really was an insignificant and minor danger, it should be small and clear. However, it was currently so weak that it was virtually undetectable, yet blurry as if it was just her misperception. There could only be one explanation for that. An expert who was extremely proficient in the Tao of divination was deceiving her senses. While there seemed to be no abnormalities on the surface, a faint light instantly flickered within Xue Chuqing's left pupil. I still can't see it clearly even through the river diagram. Xue Chuqing knit her brows slightly. At this moment, jade green light shot into the skies from the peak of a mountain in the world beyond worlds. The green light transformed into all-encompassing radiance that expanded into the surrounding heavens and earth. As it expanded, the radiance faded as it gradually became hard to detect. On the peak of the mountain, a figure raised his head and watched as the jade green light gradually vanished. The voice of a person still seemed to resound by his ear. The owner of that voice was precisely the person who had previously handed him the source of the green light, a jade green talisman paper. It was the voice of the disciple of the earth, Exalt Wang Zhengcheng, the earth spirit Lord Li Juanxin. This talisman originates from the Upper Exalt. The Upper Exalt's martial foundation is the origin heavenly scripture of the earlier Heaven 3 scriptures of the Jade Clear lineage, one of the most proficient divination techniques under the heavens. This talisman can suppress and deceive that Snow Crane's acute sense of danger, which is close to foresight, even disrupting her half of the river diagram. My master's divination indicates that the opportunity should be in the near future. Please calculate its general location. With such a division of labor, it will be easier for us to find clues and obtain accurate information. with the help of the Upper Exalt's talisman. Even if that snow crane moves, we will still be able to track it within a short period of time. It is just that time is limited at the end of the day. If we miss this opportunity, it will be difficult to intercept this snow crane in the future. At the same time, if that father and son of Broad Creed Mountain detect something amiss and rush over to reinforce us, while my master has already made appropriate arrangements, we still have to be prepared for the worst. Therefore, we must end this battle quickly and deal with it as soon as possible. Intercept that snow crane. Her life and death will be at your disposal. Only, my master wants to take a look at the various treasures on that snow crane. I hope that you will remember this. The other party seemed not to be afraid that he would take the treasures for himself. Still, he indeed did not have much time to think about that now. To him, the best situation would be to silently take care of Xue Chuqing without the father and son of Broad Creed Mountain knowing anything about it. Only then would everything be fine. Otherwise, there would be no end of trouble. Sighing, he closed his eyes, silently calculating within his heart. After a long time, he abruptly opened his eyes before his figure vanished from the spot, speeding off in a certain direction. Chapter 1143. Even as the undercurrents of the world beyond worlds surged, it was currently flourishing on the surface. The Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion, whose name had already spread far and wide and had established its position, welcomed its third anniversary. After the usual opening of the pavilion to the public, a higher-level auction officially began. Those who were able to participate in the auction were all people who had tokens in their hands without exception. In Yan Zhaoga's words, only members could participate in the auction. Not all of the items auctioned were owned by the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. More than half of them had been entrusted by others to be auctioned by the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. There was no lack of treasures amongst them. As news spread, many people were naturally drawn over. The response was rather good. From the specifications to the process, it was obvious that this would be an incomparably successful auction. Meanwhile, the black-clothed brocade emperor, who had caught the attention of those of the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion, had been very quiet all along. From arriving at Yuanzhou City till the auction had begun till now, he had not done anything at all. It was as if he had really come to participate in this event. Still, Yan Zhaoga and the others increasingly felt that things were not normal, because the female Emperor Jie Mingkong, who had originally agreed to attend the auction, had missed her appointment. With this, Wang Pu and the others instantly felt the pressure brought about by the black-clothed brocade emperor increase exponentially. Could it be that the female emperor learnt of the letter you brought from the roving jade heavens, and was thus dissatisfied? Wang Pu asked in private. Chu Lily's existence was extremely secretive, as few in the world beyond worlds knew about it. It was not like the bright connection emperor and the others who had been intentionally concealed. Instead, she had rarely interacted with others in the world beyond worlds that year. Virtually no one knew that the Astro Sovereign had another disciple besides the female emperor. The Sword Sovereign, Yu Xinbei, naturally knew about it, because Chu Lily was rather familiar with him. Those of his lineage at Jade Capital Crag also vaguely knew about it, just that they were not as detailed. After Yan Zhaoga had returned to the world beyond worlds, the Sword Sovereign had still yet to return from extra-dimensional space. Thus, he had mentioned it to Wang Pu. Now that the female emperor had unexpectedly missed her appointment, Wang Pu could not help but think of this. Probably not. Yan Zhaoga said, I did not spread the news. Even if someone from the roving Jade Heavens wanted to do so, they would at most only know that I met Senior Chu. They would not know what we discussed, nor would they know about the matter of the letter being sent. Gao Xuebe, Long Xueji, and the others would not intentionally screw him over. Little Gao Qing might be a little careless, but her grandfather, Gao Shiwebwa would definitely remind her repeatedly about this matter. Thus, the chances of Gao Qing leaking the news were very low. The Cloud Conquest Emperor and the others didn't like the world beyond worlds. Even if they wanted to stir up chaos within the world beyond worlds, they didn't have enough resources on hand. Naturally, they couldn't do anything. If Yan Zhaoge had only met Chu Lily once, it would not have been possible to anger the female emperor. I promise, I've never leaked any information here, Wang Pu said with a wry smile. So, it shouldn't be because I brought the letter. At least, the possibility of that is very small. Yan Zhaoge lightly rubbed his temples. It's probably something else that caused the female emperor to miss her appointment. Still, there aren't many things that she would be concerned about. The female empress, Jie Mingkong, was famous for sweeping away the snow in front of her own door, not caring about the frost on the roof of others. Most of the time, of the world beyond worlds' 5 emperors, her presence was the weakest, because there were very few things that could make her move. Therefore, her presence at Broad Creed Mountain's opening ceremony had shocked everyone present. Even when the Brocade Emperor had challenged Mars Halberd in the past, a rare immortal battle in the world beyond worlds in recent years, the female emperor had not bothered about it at all. When Chen Qianhua had kicked down Ingenious Flying Peak, the female emperor had similarly not moved. Only when Chen Qianhua had intended to become the Southern Exalt and had clashed with Jade Capital Crag's Nie Jingshan, which involved Broad Creed Mountain and Jade Capital Crag, had the female emperor appeared once more. It was not easy to make the current number 1 female expert of the world beyond worlds move. Whether it is my Broad Creed Mountain or senior apprentice uncle Yu's Jade Capital Crag, the reason why the female emperor is so friendly with them is actually because of the friendship between my ancestor and the Astro Sovereign. Although it is most likely not because I brought the letter for Senior Chu, Yan Zhaoge pondered and said, I'm afraid that the thing that is most likely to move the female emperor in the world beyond worlds is still related to the Astro Sovereign. Hearing his words, Wang Pu nodded slowly. Indeed, there is more than one person who came looking for trouble. Yan Zhaoge raised his head slightly, looking at the ceiling of the private room as he said decisively, with the black-clothed Brocade Emperor's current condition, he would not be able to set up such a grand scheme. The person who could link all of this together, Xiao Ai and the others suddenly understood and said in unison, Southern High Peaks Qilin Cliff. That white-clothed Brocade Emperor cannot come, and the female emperor cannot come as well. Yan Zhaoge exhaled, lightly. No matter how I look at it, this does not seem to be an isolated incident. Instead, it seems to have been planned beforehand. Old Wang, are you unhappy with the fact that the secret pavilion is gathering power for my Jade Capital Crag? Wang Pu asked gravely. Because Qiu Jiahai and the other disciples of Jade Capital Crag were participating. The Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion was stirring up a storm. To a certain extent, they were indeed continuously boosting the Sword Emperor's reputation. All along, of the world beyond worlds' 3 sovereigns, the Concealed Sovereign had always kept a low profile, while the Sword Sovereign had the least experience. Therefore, the earthly sovereign had vaguely been the leader. At present, the appearance of the Pavilion of Heavenly Mysteries was not enough to change this situation. However, if this were to continue developing, the effects would become deeper and deeper, and it was hard to say whether or not new signs would appear. In the world of martial artists, the feelings of the people were not as important as in the secular world. Still, after so many years, the world beyond worlds was deeply intertwined with one another, as there would inevitably be connections between the upper and lower levels. While it was the upper levels who influenced the lower levels most of the time, when the lower levels gradually formed a whole, their voices would have to be taken seriously by the upper levels as well. If the stances of the higher echelon experts shifted, it would naturally affect the authority of the peak experts. Of course, The prerequisite was that there was no great disparity in strength between the two sides. As the chief steward of the world beyond worlds most of the time, Wang Pu did not believe that the Earth Exalt Wang Zhengcheng could not understand this. Still, there is a precondition. Qiu Jiahai said, the concealed sovereign must remain neutral. If the concealed sovereign firmly supports the earthly sovereign, the current situation in the world beyond worlds will not change. That being said, before the concealed sovereign expresses his stance, the Earth Exalt should not act rashly. This is not in line with his style. Yan Zhaoge stroked his lower chin. Therefore, he should not be in a hurry to suppress the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion unless the Earth Exalt intends to do the opposite, going against his usual style. While this was possible, it was rather small. Then his target. Yan Zhaoge narrowed his eyes. Ahu. Before he had finished speaking, a look of surprise suddenly appeared on the face of Ahu beside him as he took out a purple ice crystal and crushed it. Light flickered within the ice crystal, forming information. Seeing this, everyone's expressions turned ugly as Yan Zhaoge put a hand on his forehead. Not a single one of my helpers can arrive, but my enemies are coming one after another. The information contained within the ice crystal was, the Heaven Emperor has descended upon the southeast. Chapter 1144. Everyone's expression became even more solemn when they saw the information in the crystal. The Heaven Emperor had undoubtedly come to the southeastern Yang Heaven territory for the later Earth text buried in the Royal Reed Sea. The later Earth text was buried in the Royal Reed Sea as Broad Creed Mountain was currently unable to retrieve it. But for the Heaven Emperor who had already pushed open the immortal door, as long as he was given some time, he would be able to think of a way. The Earth Mother Tao ritual had many restrictions. With Yan Zhaoge having established a certain connection with the later Earth text, others of Broad Creed Mountain would be unable to replace him in wielding the ritual, borrowing the power of the later Earth text to resist the Heaven Emperor. The enmity between the two sides was too deep, and there was almost no possibility of turning hostility into friendship. If the Heaven Emperor obtained the later Earth text, it would definitely increase his strength. Such an enemy becoming even more powerful was naturally not something that all of Broad Creed Mountain wished to see. Usually, Yan Zhaoge would just put aside the matters of the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion and hurry back to the southeastern Yang Heaven territory's Royal Reed Sea to deal with the matter of the later Earth text. Now, however, the black-clothed brocade emperor was right in front of him, making it hard to fathom him. An Earth Exalt making a move is indeed extraordinary. He has considered all aspects. Yan Zhaoge chuckled coldly. I wonder if he and Upper Chin will make a move. Over at the southeastern Yang Heaven territory, junior brother Nie should be hurrying over to handle it. Wang Pu said solemnly, I will immediately return to Jade, Capital Crag, and invite the Origin Opening Sword out of the mountain. The Origin Opening Sword was the sword that the sword Sovereign Yu Jinbei used in the past, the leakless immortal weapon. When Yu Jinbei had left the world beyond worlds for the extra-dimensional void, he had left behind this sword to guard his sect. Wang Pu had not summoned the Origin Opening Sword for himself. At the end of the day, his cultivation base was only at the 9th level of the Martial Saint realm. The current swordmaster was either the Southwestern Exalt Bai Tao or the Southern Exalt Nie Jingshan. It would be best if he could deliver the sword to Nie Jingshan in time. If the situation did not allow it, Wang Pu was also prepared to contact Bai Tao at the same time. The Brocade Emperor, the Heaven Emperor, and the Upper Exalt who might intervene. Qiu Jiahai took a deep breath as well. From the looks of it, he is determined to obtain it. If Elder Wang were to personally make a move, he would definitely bring out the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram. The Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram was a leakless, immortal artifact that the earthly sovereign had always carried with him. All this while, he had remained at the southern High Peaks Chelan Cliff to guard the mountain gate, but he rarely left the mountain. Even when the Brocade Emperor had challenged Mars Halberd and the Earth Exalt had acted as their witness, he had not invited the Enyang Earth Mountain River diagram to accompany him. However, everyone present knew that given the situation today, it would be fine if Wang Zhengcheng did not personally make a move. If he attacked, he would definitely use the Enyang Earth Mountain River diagram. Yan Zhaoge's expression was calm. There is no harm in being prepared. Thank you, Senior Apprentice Brother Wang. Still, what will the encompassing emperor's attitude towards the bigwigs of the world beyond worlds who are still here? The biggest possibility is that they won't help either side. Wang Pu and Qiu Jiahai looked at each other and said, I see. Yan Zhaoge nodded slowly, standing up. All right, I will send you out, Senior Apprentice Brother Wang. Otherwise, with the black-clothed Brocade Emperor blocking the door, it will probably be hard for you to return to Jade Capital Crag. Wang Pu frowned. Junior Apprentice Brother Yen, I had originally intended to send Ahu to Dragon Butterfly Valley to take a look. Yan Zhaoge said mildly, while that place is hidden, there is no guarantee that no one will know about it. Actually, if they want to ruin the business of my Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion, destroying Dragon Butterfly Valley is also a good method. Dragon Butterfly Valley's environment was unique in the first place. After Yan Zhaoge's modifications, it had become suitable for him to forge artifacts on a large scale. If it was completely destroyed at its core, Yan Zhaoge would have to spend a great deal of effort to find another suitable place. Still, I now feel that the other party's target is not the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. Yan Zhaoge led the way out of the elegant room. Whether it is the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion or the later Earth text of the Royal Reed Sea, they are all just pretenses. It is a method to divert our attention and draw our manpower. His true target, and the person who is handling this matter, is something else entirely. Yan Zhaoge smiled. The Earth Exalt has already laid out his plans. If I continue to wait passively, I will only be losing the initiative. Therefore, with that, he strode forward, shifting space as he was already outside the elegant room of the black-clothed Brocade Emperor. Therefore, I prefer to take the initiative and seek a chance to break out of this situation. As Yan Zhaoge pushed open the door, the black-clothed Brocade Emperor was already looking at him. This Yen has some matters to attend to and has come to bid farewell to the black-clothed Brocade Emperor. The black-clothed Brocade Emperor's gaze did not fluctuate as he just looked calmly at Yan Zhaoge. Little friend, Yen is actually leaving for such an important event of the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. In the eyes of some people, some things might be more important. Yan Zhaoge said mildly, I feel the same. That is truly regrettable. The black-clothed Brocade Emperor said indifferently, I would still like to ask little friend Yen for some pointers regarding the Tai Fist. Ha! Yan Zhaoge laughed. While you covet the Tai Fist, you must have made an agreement with someone to keep this yen in Yuanzhou City, right? I wonder what price the other party offered to move your majesty. The black-clothed Brocade Emperor's expression suddenly changed slightly. Still, it was not because of Yan Zhaoge's words. His gaze shifted slightly to the other side. His gaze pierced through the numerous obstructions of the buildings as he saw a streak of sword-light flying into the air, about to leave Yuanzhou City and head for Kunlun Mountain. While he was shocked that Yan Zhaoge actually dared to face the Brocade Emperor head-on, Wang Pu did not waste time on words as he made use of this chance to return to Jade Capital Crag. You cannot leave, the black-clothed Brocade Emperor said indifferently. Before his words had landed, dense purple chi expanded with him at its center, traversing space and instantly enveloping the entire Yuanzhou City. Yet, at the same time, Yan Zhaoge said mildly, you can... His body suddenly turned bright at times, whilst dim at others, blurry and indistinct. The next moment, light and darkness separated as the blurry chaos transformed into a clear distinction between darkness and light that coexisted at the same time. The boundless darkness retreated, only immeasurable light remaining. After the light had been shattered, there was no longer darkness, as it was like the grand Tao had collapsed along with it. With yin and yang no longer existing, all creation was extinguished as boundless terror assaulted over. The dense purple qi of the black-clothed brocade emperor that enveloped Yuanzhou City was actually forcibly ripped open. Wang Pu immediately flew out with his sword, vanishing without a trace. At this moment, those who were currently participating in the auction in the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion had yet to regain their wits. Qiu Jiahai and the others who knew what had happened were all shocked. Yan Zhaoga had actually really gone to find trouble with the brocade emperor head-on. Even more shockingly, he had really helped Wang Pu break out of the black-clothed brocade emperor's blockade. 9th level of the Martial Saint Realm, late Immortal Bridge stage. The black-clothed brocade emperor's expression did not change. Still, his attention was already fully focused on Yan Zhaoga before him, as he no longer paid any attention to the departing Wang Pu. When I was actually unable to see through your depths when we met earlier, I had already vaguely suspected it. Still, I still felt it to be inconceivable to think that it was actually true. The black-clothed brocade emperor glanced deeply at Yan Zhaoga. It should only have been over 3 years since you stepped into the 8th level of the Martial Saint Realm back in the 9 underworlds. Chapter 1145. He was just doubtful and puzzled by the obvious illogical phenomenon in front of him, and he tried to correct it. Still, however he looked at it, the Yan Zhaoga before him was shockingly already a 9th level martial saint, the late Immortal Bridge stage. Not having made a move earlier, Yan Zhaoga had returned to simplicity, his external appearance resembling that of a mortal who had never cultivated in the heavenly Tao. Only when the two sides clashed did they reveal some clues. His acupoints, which could break through the void and see the true God, revolved ceaselessly like the real stars in the universe. Apart from destruction, the stars could also create new life. When a star reached its end and eventually perished, a new star would be born. The countless stars had their own unique trajectories. They revolved as they pleased, orderly, and had profound rules. The cycle of life and death continued, and the martial artist's strength entered a whole new level. Of all the acupoints in his body, there were only a few hidden acupoints that had not broken through the void to see the true spirit. As long as all of his acupoints were successfully opened to see divinity, it would mean that he had attained the body of a human immortal, stepping into the realm of supremacy of the pinnacle of the martial saint realm. As compared to when Yan Zhaoga had still been at the 8th level of the martial saint realm in the 9 underworlds back then, he had naturally undergone a complete transformation. The brocade emperor had personally interacted with Yan Zhaoga of the 8th level of the martial saint realm back in the 9 underworlds. Although at that time, he had not yet been split into two and become two people in black and white, his memories were still there. Comparing the two, the brocade emperor could not be any clearer about the obvious gap between the current Yan Zhaoga and the one from back then. Still, this caused the black-clothed brocade emperor to doubt his life even more. Others aside, he had personally seen Yan Zhaoga ascend from the 7th level of the martial saint realm to the 8th level of the martial saint realm back in the 9 underworlds. Others might not understand the situation, but how could he not? While he could tell that Yan Zhaoga should have only recently attained the 9th level of the martial saint realm, it had only been less than 5 years since that time in the 9 underworlds. The higher one's cultivation realm was, the harder it would be to advance, and the longer it would take. Having reached the Immortal Bridge martial saint realm, every single step forward was exceedingly difficult. Most people would stop at a certain realm for more than 10 years, decades, or even hundreds of years. Were they not talented? Martial practitioners who could ascend the immortal bridge were all dragons and phoenixes amongst men, geniuses amongst geniuses. However, the higher the road, the more difficult it would be. This principle was applicable to everyone. Being able to push open the door to immortality, the Brocade Emperor was naturally superior to his peers. Still, he had not been able to achieve this as quickly as Yen Zhaoge had in the past. This was especially so considering how his father, Yen Di, had similarly progressed at a shocking rate. The black-clothed Brocade Emperor gazed at Yen Zhaoge. The father and son of the Yen family are both fallen deities. Apologies for the offense. Black-clothed Brocade Emperor. Yen Zhaoge said mildly. Frankly speaking, this Yen is indeed not standing on your side in the conflict between you and the other Brocade Emperor. Both of us are well aware of the reason for this. Still, while I support that Brocade Emperor, I never thought that I would have to fight you head-on so soon. Yen Zhaoge suddenly smiled. If not for the fact that I have other matters to attend to, it would actually be pretty good. A fight between humans and immortals, it would be a great thing. Both sides spoke without restraint, their voices echoing throughout the entire Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. Only now did everyone wake up from their daze. What followed was a daze brought about by even more shock. The fallen deity, Yen Zhaoge, wanted to challenge the Brocade Emperor who had pushed open the door to immortality as a late immortal bridge martial saint. The matter of the Brocade Emperor having split into two was still only spread amongst a few people. Therefore, most people were especially shocked at this moment. Even though the upper exalt Chen Qianhua had already battled the Myriad Emperor to a draw with the southern exalt Nie Jingshen, everyone present was still greatly shocked at this moment. Chen Qianhua and Nie Jingshen had both been renowned beneath the heavens for many years as they were both extraordinary figures. One had been the #1 martial saint of the world beyond worlds for many years, while the other was hailed as the #3 martial saint of the world beyond worlds, despite being a 9th-level martial saint. Whatever the case, the two of them had displayed the strength to contend against true immortals. They were both at the 10th level of the martial saint realm, human exalts. When had they ever been like the current Yen Zhaoge, who dared to contend against immortals as a 9th-level martial saint, let alone the world beyond worlds of post-Great Calamity times? Even those of pre-Great Calamity times would not be able to recall such a shocking feat in a short period of time. Everyone's hearts burned with passion. They urgently wanted to know if Yen Zhaoge of the 9th level of the martial saint realm could stand against the Brocade Emperor who had pushed open the door to immortality many years ago. The urgency of this had already surpassed that of the auction that was currently in full swing. I am not in a hurry. The black-clothed Brocade Emperor said indifferently, "Please do not be stingy in displaying the profundities of the Tai Fist, little friend Yen." With that, he directly raised a finger, tapping towards Yen Zhaoge's brow. As soon as he attacked, it was shockingly one of the grand cosmos 5 manifestations of the grand clear direct lineage, the grand commencement divine finger. Facing an opponent of the 9th level of the martial saint realm, the black-clothed Brocade Emperor's first move had been his ultimate move. He actually did not underestimate Yen Zhaoge in the least. Back in the 9 underworlds, before he had split apart, the Brocade Emperor had once clashed with Yen Zhaoge of the 8th level of the martial saint realm. At that time, Yen Zhaoge had made use of the geographical environment of the 9 underworlds to condense the body of a black Buddha with the faceless devilish scripture, attaining the illusory 9th level of the martial saint realm before unleashing hearts will thunder to attack the flaws in the Brocade Emperor's cultivation deviation. Still, the Brocade Emperor already had a general estimate of Yen Zhaoge's strength at the 8th level of the martial saint realm. The black-clothed brocade emperor's judgment that did not involve emotions in the slightest was that Yen Zhaoge, who had improved on that foundation and attained the 9th level of the martial saint realm, really might be able to battle a true immortal as a human. While the two had not truly clashed earlier, they had already exchanged blows in midair. The black-clothed brocade emperor had sealed Yuanzhou City with his martial qi. Meanwhile, Yen Zhaoge had used the fist intent of his grand-shattering brightness fist to rip open a crack in the layers of purple qi, helping Wang Pu to leave. The moment an expert made a move, it would be obvious whether he was skilled or not. With just this exchange of blows, the black-clothed brocade emperor knew that this unprecedented opponent required him to go all out and face him seriously. As soon as the grand commencement divine finger was executed, the world seemed to have returned to earlier heaven as the concepts of time and space no longer existed. There was only that profound, formless, and intangible qi of earlier heaven that upheld the principles of the heavens and the earth. Facing this finger, Yen Zhaoge too felt time and space being distorted. It was as if he had already been struck by the black-clothed brocade emperor's finger. Still, he was not flustered in the slightest as he raised his palm, striking down with a cyclic, heavenly seal. A majestic power manifested. One palm had two sides, one being grand simplicity at the beginning of earlier heaven, while the other was grand ultimate at the end of earlier heaven. As the two sides reversed, the black-clothed brocade emperor's qi of earlier heaven was sent all the way to later heaven through grand beginning, grand plainness, and grand ultimate. The cyclic heavenly seal had the ability to revert to earlier heaven, causing the later heaven world to revert to earlier heaven. Yet this palm of Yen Zhaoge's was reversed, wanting to revert to earlier heaven falling behind the heavens. The profundities of its usage depended on one's will as the mighty power of the cyclic heavenly seal to overturn the very heavens and earth was fully displayed. My words might be a little rude. Please forgive me, Your Majesty, Yen Zhaoge said mildly. Pardon my bluntness, but you are not strong in your current state. Chapter 1146. Faced with the pair of cyclic heavenly seals, the profundities of the black-clothed brocade emperor's grand commencement divine finger actually showed signs of dissipating and dissipating. The black-clothed brocade emperor did not get angry at Yen Zhaoge's words. He simply raised his left palm and placed it across his chest. In the center of his palm, yin and yang hugged together, and the taiji rotated. The power of the taiji yin-yang palm was condensed. At the same time, plain-colored cloud qi coiled around the black-clothed brocade emperor's body. It was precisely the qi of grand plainness. The power of tai qi rotated and continuously supplied the tai plainness qi. Then the tai plainness qi turned into the formless tai sure emptiness. The power of the grand beginning bright emptiness form shifted between real and illusory as it converged on the tip of the black-clothed brocade emperor's right index finger. From Tai Chi to Tai Su to Tai Sure, and finally back to Tai Chu. The change in reverting to earlier heaven allowed the black-clothed brocade emperor's grand commencement divine finger to see light once more. Under this finger strike, the four forms of nature had fused into one and returned to simplicity. It was boundlessly profound and possessed peerless might. Even though the black-clothed and white-clothed brocade emperor were still inferior to the one and only brocade emperor of the past, the black-clothed brocade emperor was still an emperor expert who had pushed open the door to immortality as he similarly dominated the mortal realm. Now that he had unleashed his full strength, he fully displayed the flair of the number one expert of the world beyond world's grand, clear, direct lineage. His right index finger was still pointing towards Yen Zhaoge's forehead. Yen Zhaoge was neither flustered nor flustered as his left hand continued blocking the grand commencement divine finger with the heaven-flipping seal. His right hand clenched into a fist as he counterattacked the black-clothed brocade emperor. The force of the Taiji yin-yang palm was still condensed within the Taiji diagram of the black-clothed brocade emperor's left palm before his chest, blocking Yan Zhaoge's right fist. Yan Zhaoge's right fist seemed to have been split into two by a formless boundary. Half of it shone with resplendent light, glistening and dazzling, while the other half blended into the darkness and was hard to see. The surface of his fist was covered with a layer of dim light. It was not bright, not dazzling, but rather misty. The black-clothed brocade emperor thought of something as he immediately wanted to change his move. However, Yan Zhaoge's right fist had already struck the Taiji diagram formed of his palm force. The primal chaos on his fist converged, and the power of light and darkness was born. The boundless darkness transformed into boundless light. Amidst the radiance, the 12 heavenly wheels rotated in the void like 12 radiant gods, illuminating the endless void. In the next moment, the 12 incarnations of the gods of light shattered together. It was the shattering brightness fist. Not only did this punch shatter light, but it also seemed to shatter the Tao of light and darkness. The terrifying power of yin and yang destruction also forcefully broke apart the Tai Chi diagram, formed by the interweaving of yin and yang. Unlike when he had torn apart the purple clouds to help Wang Pu escape, he had only unleashed his fist intent. Now, he had unleashed the true great shattering brightness fist, causing the world to change color. Having just witnessed the fist intent of the grand shattering brightness palm, the black-clothed brocade emperor knew that this move of Yan Zhaoge's just happened to counter the Taiji yin-yang palm to a certain extent. He wanted to change his move, but it was too late, as the Taiji yin-yang palm was forcibly broken through by Yan Zhaoge's great shattering brightness fist. The black-clothed brocade emperor's combined attack of the grand cosmos 4 manifestations was immediately affected as a result. Yan Zhaoge saw this all too clearly as he mightily exerted force with the cyclic heavenly seal with his left hand, immediately switching from defense to offense as he dispelled the brocade emperor's grand commencement divine finger. The attack of the black-clothed brocade emperor's combined 4 manifestations with its head and tail connected as one was forcibly ripped apart by Yan Zhaoge as its structure was destroyed. Yan Zhaoge attacked simultaneously from both ends, launching a ferocious attack from 2 directions that resembled the frenzied tides of a tsunami. You live up to your reputation. The black-clothed brocade emperor's expression did not change as he suddenly changed his stance. He ignored Yan Zhaoge's ferocious attack as he retracted the Taiji yin-yang palm with his left hand, suddenly clenching it into a fist before punching towards Yan Zhaoge. Beneath the effects of the grand beginning bright emptiness form, the spatial coordinates of the two seemed to change. As he drifted, the black-clothed brocade emperor's fist had already arrived above Yan Zhaoge's head. This fist of his looked rather strange, as it did not seem like a punch. Instead, it seemed like a crutch had appeared in his hand as he swung it to hit someone. It was shockingly the crutch art of one of the Grand Clear Later Heaven 5 Ultimates. As the crutch moved, it seemed destined to hit its target. This supreme martial art was even more powerful in the hands of the black-clothed brocade emperor, who was a true immortal. Caught off guard, it was especially hard to guard against. The transaction involves not just the earth exalt, but upper chin as well. Yan Zhaoge's gaze flickered as he was neither panicked nor flustered as he changed his stance, with his right hand substituting a sword with his finger as he stabbed out towards the crutch of the black-clothed brocade emperor. The sword resembled an azure dragon that stood out from the masses. As it soared, infinite baleful chi surged into the heavens. A sharp glow shot out from the body of the azure dragon, causing an all-encompassing blood-red light. as it transformed into an incomparably brutal swordlight that was filled with killing intent. Yen Zhaoge met the black-clothed brocade emperor's crutch with a slaying azure dragon. Yet, this sword contained even more of the sword intent of the prime clear lineage. It was not just the immortal slaughtering sword that killed. There was also the sword intent of the immortal exterminating sword that extinguished the Tao. The sword light concealed with sharpness temporarily stopped the crutch of the black-clothed brocade emperor. At the same time, Yen Zhaoge's left hand continued exerting force with the cyclic heavenly seal. Beneath his palm, the long river of time seemed to be overturned. On one side was the beginning of earlier heaven, while on the other was the end of later heaven. The rotation of creation, life, and destruction used the jade clear cyclic heavenly seal as a link connecting the fist of the grand clear lineage that symbolized the beginning and the sword of the prime clear lineage that symbolized the end. In the end, it turned into one of the most extreme transformations of the flipping sky seal, creation, reversal. After analyzing the immortal exterminating sword, Yen Zhaoge had executed a move that was even more ferocious than when he had battled Qin Qianhua in the Eight Extremities world back then. Struck by the violent force, the black-clothed brocade emperor was directly sent tumbling backwards, as even his walking stick was unable to continue. The body of a perfected immortal was difficult to harm in the mortal realm. While the black-clothed brocade emperor looked rather haggard, he was fine. But when the others saw this scene, they were all dumbfounded. Even if Yen Zhaoge was willing to take the people of Yuanzhou City into consideration, the black-clothed brocade emperor would definitely have no such reservations. Thus, the moment the battle began, the Heavenly Fate Pavilion's auction came to an end. The cultivators who came to participate in the meeting and the other people of Yuanzhou City had long since fled. No one felt indignant about leaving their homeland. When perfected immortal experts fought, there was no reasoning in the mortal world. Everyone was more concerned about the outcome of this battle. Then they saw a scene they would never forget. The brocade emperor, who had already pushed open the door to immortality, was repelled by Yen Zhaoge of the 9th level of the Martial Saint realm, the late immortal bridge stage. If you are trying to analyze my Tai fist through this battle, there is no need for that. Your Majesty, Yen Zhaoge waved his hand. This Yen does not have to use the Tai fist. While the black-clothed brocade emperor had been defeated, after stabilizing himself, he said calmly, "It is fine. I have sufficient time. I will definitely be able to find a chance." Does the Heaven Emperor, who has gone to the Royal Reed Sea, have the same mentality as you? Yen Zhaoge's gaze flickered as he suddenly asked, "If we ignore him, he will be happy to take the later Earth text. If someone does, he will slowly drag things out." The black-clothed brocade emperor said mildly, "I do not understand the matter of the Heaven Emperor." Ha! While smiling on the surface, Yen Zhaoge was decisively sending a sound transmission in secret. Who? Contact my father immediately. The other party's target is not me or the dim radiant wheel or the Heavenly Fate Pavilion. Instead, it is my mother. They have definitely found a way to lock onto her position. Chapter 1147. Yen Di and the black-clothed brocade emperor could not coexist. His conflict with the upper exalt Qianhua was due to personal reasons. Moreover, they did not have any personal grudges with the southern High Peaks Qilin Cliff. There were two main points of conflict. Firstly, Yen Zhaoge had obtained the dim radiant wheel, becoming the successor of the dim radiant emperor Yin Tianxia. Secondly, Yen Di's wife, Yen Zhaoge's mother, Xue Chuqing, had always been pursued by southern High Peaks Qilin Cliff. As for other matters, like Yen Zhaoge establishing the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion to help the Sword Sovereign, they were merely follow-up issues. Through the black-clothed brocade emperor's reaction and the other parties' various arrangements, Yen Zhaoge was now certain that the enemy's target was not him or the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. In that case, it could only be his mother, Xue Chuqing. All along, Yen Zhaoge and Yen Di had been conscious of this. It was very likely that the other party was trying to find Xue Chuqing through them. Conversely, they also had a way to secretly pay attention to the other party's reactions, hoping to find Xue Chuqing's whereabouts through this. From the looks of it now, the other party must have an accurate clue. It was because of this that he had contacted the black-clothed brocade Emperor and the Heaven Emperor to split their forces to temporarily stall Yen Zhaoge and the others. There has been no movement from the Northern Exalt side. He is proficient in divination and was originally neutral. Now that he has suddenly interfered, it should be Qin Qianhua who cultivates in the origin heavenly scripture. Various thoughts rapidly flashed through Yen Zhaoge's mind. With Qin Qianhua helping to suppress Mother's half of the river diagram, it would be much easier for the Earth Exalt and the others to act. It's very likely that there are others involved. Taoist, One Heaven, Lang Qing, or even Lien Zolin. The black-clothed brocade Emperor vaguely sensed that Yen Zhaoge had sent a sound transmission to someone else, just that he was unsure of the contents. However, he didn't mind. The people who needed to consider this problem were Wang Zhengcheng and the others. For the black-clothed brocade Emperor, as long as he attempted to obstruct Yen Zhaoge here, he would have completed his deal. As for his personal goal, it was Yen Zhaoge's Tai Fist. He did not care whether Wang Zhengcheng and the others' plan could be completed or not. While he had already tried his best to overestimate Yen Zhaoge's strength, the results still surpassed his expectations. However, there was a difference between an immortal and a mortal after all. He wouldn't be in any danger, but the scene might be a little ugly. However, compared to the current situation, the black-clothed brocade Emperor was more concerned about how he could force Yen Zhaoge to use the Tai Fist. In addition, there was one more thing that he had to pay attention to. The black-clothed brocade Emperor did not even have to guess to know where Wang Pu had gone and what he had gone to do. This Yen is untalented. My sword Dao cannot compare to senior brother Niez, but I do know some sword techniques. Yen Zhaoge now said mildly, "While I am not a disciple of Jade Capital Crag, due to the urgency of the situation, I am temporarily borrowing the Origin Opening Sword. I believe that senior apprentice uncle, you will not blame me too much afterwards." Black-clothed brocade Emperor, do you really think that you have plenty of time? At the very least, we have plenty for now. The black-clothed brocade Emperor was unmoved. Yen Zhaoge nodded. Anyone would be able to guess that senior apprentice brother Wang would return to Jade Capital Crag to retrieve the sword. There would definitely be people obstructing him along the way. It is just that you don't have too many people to spare, right? Let me guess. As Yen Zhaoge spoke, he did not cease in his actions as he directly sent another palm descending towards the black-clothed brocade Emperor. The most likely person would probably be the Earth Spirit Lord, Li Juanxin. It's true that Li Juanxin's cultivation and strength are above senior brother Wang's, but his speed might not be as fast as senior brother Wang. With some effort, senior brother Wang should be able to shake him off. Yen Zhaoge struck out with a heavenly flipping seal, which the black-clothed brocade Emperor parried with the Taiji Yin-Yang palm. However, Yen Zhaoge's great shattering brightness fist immediately followed up, shattering that Yin-Yang Taiji. "So, Your Majesty, do you really have that much time?" The black-clothed brocade Emperor's figure spun as he appeared near and distant at times. "Since little friend Yen can guess so many things, you must be even more anxious than I am." Hearing his words, Yen Zhaoge laughed. That might not be the case. It wasn't that the Yen family didn't have any clues to search for Xue Chuqing. It was just that for the sake of Xue Chuqing's safety, they didn't want to do so, now that it had come to the point of life and death Yen Zhaoge believed that as long as his father received the news, he would definitely not hold anything back. By dispelling the power of the river diagram, Chen Qianhua had made things easier for Wang Zhengcheng and the others, as well as for Yen Di. From a certain perspective, Yen Zhaoge, Yen Di, and the others had also been waiting for this day. Now, it all depended on who was faster and who could find Shui Chuqing first. The black-clothed brocade emperor said no more as he executed the grand beginning bright emptiness form, his figure turning as he evaded Yen Zhaoge's attack. A lofty true immortal was actually engaged in a battle of attrition with Yen Zhaoge now. While he would leave after just a touch, if Yen Zhaoge wanted to ignore him and leave, his attacks would immediately become fierce and vicious. The black-clothed brocade emperor refused to retreat in defeat, as both sides fell into a stalemate. Yen Zhaoge's expression was calm, his gaze dim and cold. At the same time, on the southeastern Yang Heaven Territory's Royal Reed Sea, the scenes from a few years ago replayed today. The radiance of the originally bright and beautiful sky suddenly dimmed. The sun, moon, and stars lost their radiance simultaneously. It was not that night had devoured day. Instead, it was that the sky up above had shockingly turned into the great earth at this moment. Below them was still the sea, and beneath the seawater was the land. Now, however, the original sky had turned into the land as well. At this moment, it was like there was no more sky as only the earth remained. Below was the great earth, above was still the great earth. The vast royal reed sea that surged for tens of thousands of kilometers now seemed to be situated in an underground world as it was surrounded by mud. As this familiar scene reappeared, everyone in the royal reed sea unconsciously looked upwards. There, an upside-down tree was rooted in the great earth up above. It was verdant and lush, its branches and leaves flickering with green light as they enveloped the great earth above and below. A formless pressure caused the world to fall silent as time and space seemed to freeze at this moment. It was none other than the Heaven Emperor who had descended. He was naturally paying attention to broad Creed Mountain in the spirit inheritance region of the Royal Reed Sea. Oh, not only is Yen Zhaoge not here, that Yen Di is not here too. The Heaven Emperor was rather taken aback. Still, he was naturally happy to see this. While he was only worried about Yen Zhaoge unleashing the Earth Mother Tao ritual, if both Yen Zhaoge and Yen Di were not here, it would definitely be the most convenient way for him to obtain the later Earth text without any obstruction at all. Yen Zhaoge's Northern Ocean clone would be unable to replace him in unleashing the Earth Mother Tao ritual. For the Heaven Emperor, the later Earth text was naturally the most important. The upside-down tree that towered to the heavens vanished as a Taoist appeared in midair. He wore an apricot yellow Taoist robe with a golden crown on his head and a crane cloak on his body. His face was like jade as he had 3 long strands of beard. This was none other than the Lord of Kunlun Mountain's illusory coming peak, the Heaven Emperor. Thinking that his long-cherished wish could finally be fulfilled, even someone of the Heaven Emperor's mental state felt rather emotional. Still, he suddenly halted just as he was about to stride forward. Gazing back, the Heaven Emperor saw a crevice shockingly splitting open on the great earth up above that was formed of thick earth. A sword light surged from within the crevice, cleaving apart the great earth with the momentum of opening the heavens and splitting the earth. Chapter 1148. The Heaven Emperor's expression did not change as he silently watched that majestic sword light break through the great earth above the Royal Reed Sea. A handsome young man in black, with a cold expression, appeared in front of him. It was none other than the current Southern Exalt, Nie Jingshan. Please wait, Heaven Emperor. The sword light retracted as Nie Jingshan stood in midair, looking completely ordinary. It was just like when he had appeared in the Royal Reed Sea during Broad Creed Mountain's opening ceremony several years ago. However, the Heaven Emperor clearly knew that this youth before him had already been extraordinary back then, and was even more so now. Seeing Nie Jingshan's appearance, the hearts of those of Broad Creed Mountain were at least half at ease. Why has Southern Nie come to the southeast? The Heaven Emperor asked casually. I've been entrusted by someone to look after it for a while. Nie Jingshan said coldly, this is to prevent some rascals from taking advantage of the situation to steal. The Heaven Emperor was not angered, as he just said mildly, since when did the later Earth text become Broad Creed Mountain's private property? But it was never something that belonged to you, Big Dry Emperor. Nie Jingshan retorted. Broad Creed Mountain's later Earth text is of little use. This humble Taoist will be able to display a much greater effect. While I dare not say that I will definitely be able to advance further, I will at least have hope of becoming a profound immortal. The Heaven Emperor gazed down at the surface of the sea. If the three sovereigns know of this, they will probably support this humble Taoist. This is beneficial to our Orthodox Taoism as a whole. Heaven Emperor, even if you have 1,000 reasons, this Nie will not be able to convince this Nie. Nie Jingshan said mildly, this Nie has always helped those close to him rather than reason. Hearing his words, the Heaven Emperor finally knit his brows slightly. However, Nie Jingshan did not seem to mind. Moreover, it is hard to say whether your reason is correct or not. There is no need for words between us. At the end of the day, it is impossible for me to just watch from the sidelines because of a few words from you. Or will you just leave because of a few words from me? Southern Nie must be joking. The later Earth text is of great importance to this humble Taoist. I will naturally not let it go just like that. The Heaven Emperor shook his head lightly. Since that is so, we will indeed have to fight it out. Nie Jingshan's expression did not change as he just raised his head and looked up. Please, Heaven Emperor. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor nodded and strode forward, his figure rising into the sky. The great earth above his head melted, the light of day once more visible. The Heaven Emperor strode amidst space, vaguely temporarily breaking away from the world beyond worlds. Nie Jingshan rose up as well. If they went all out in their battle, it would cause too much damage to the surrounding environment. However, they didn't have to worry about this once they were in the outer realm. Let me see how much of the Sword Emperor's legacy you have inherited. Emperor Qian raised his palm and instantly appeared in front of Nie Jingshan. His palms seemed to move 1,000 mountains, suppressing Nie Jingshan's body. In the void, there was a formless pressure that could squeeze Mount Meru into a mustard seed. Nie Jingshan watched this scene calmly. His left hand made a sword gesture, and the awakening celestial sword at his waist was unsheathed. It wasn't bright, but it was incomparably majestic. The sword light seemed to have split open the chaotic primeval universe. The chaotic earth, water, fire, and wind surged in all directions, and then calmed down. Yin and Yang were separated. When the primordial world first opened, clear chi floated up and turbid chi fell. A brand new world of creation was created. The universe was opened up. In this majestic scene, the powerful concept of opening the heavens and splitting the earth was unstoppable. One sword opening the heavens, sweeping everything in its path. The surrounding pressure that trapped Nie Jingshan instantly disappeared. The majestic sword light continued forward, heading straight for the Heaven Emperor. The jade illusory heaven opening sword lives up to its reputation. Emperor Qian shifted space-time and avoided the sword light. His figure turned and didn't retreat. Instead, he instantly appeared in front of Nie Jingshan. The wide sleeve of his robe opened, and enveloped Nie Jingshan. Space-time was reversed in the sleeve, creating a scene of chaos. It was the great mystique of the sleeve. Being enveloped by this mystique, Nie Jingshan felt himself become infinitely small, while the world in front of him became infinitely large. He couldn't help but be swallowed by the wide sleeve of the robe. "Open!" Nie Jingshan shouted, and the sword light suddenly changed. The majestic process of opening the heavens and splitting the earth was actually reversed at this moment, returning to the pre-celestial stage. Nie Jingshan retracted the sword light. At the same moment, it bloomed again. Another sword. The wondrous scene of opening the heavens and splitting the earth appeared again. Even the sword sovereign at the same cultivation level can't compare to such a sword attack speed, right? Moreover, there are no signs when he attacks. In an instant, it's like the sword of a flying immortal. The Heaven Emperor had once witnessed the battle between Nie Jingshan and Qin Qianhua. He knew that Nie Jingshan was extraordinary. Not only is his cultivation speed shocking, he is also extremely strong in actual combat. Is this the profundity of the pre-celestial nascent form? However, there were some things that couldn't be seen by spectators. Only by personally experiencing it could one understand it. Nie Jingshan attacked with his sword. Graceful streams of air rushed out. As they intertwined, they vaguely condensed into a phantom. Under the shroud of the phantom, the sword light seemed to have turned into an object that seemed like a banner yet not a banner, like an axe yet not an axe. As the sword descended, the hazy darkness was completely split apart by the bright splendor. Boundless astral winds appeared. They were between pre-celestial and pre-celestial, warm and biting cold. Within the contradiction, there was boundless profundity and terrifying power. Where the astral winds passed, they forcibly stopped the chaotic space-time in the Heaven Emperor's sleeve. However, right after that, boundless thick earth appeared. It was also between pre-celestial and pre-celestial, as if it could support all things, but also as if it could crush and shatter the world. The usually sharp and fierce edge of the sword actually revealed a domineering aura that could crush everything. It was as if the Kunlun Mountains were collapsing, the grand heavenly Tao heavens were collapsing. Nie Jingshan's sword light seemed like it could never be destroyed, it could never be worn down, it would never weaken. As a result, it was indestructible and hard to block. Whoever dared to block, it would be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. They would definitely be crushed. The Heaven Emperor was stunned. The world in his sleeve had actually been forcibly sliced apart. The world before Nie Jingshan's eyes returned to normal. With a leap, he escaped from the area enveloped by the Heaven Emperor's sleeve. He retracted his sword light and released it again, immediately chopping towards the Heaven Emperor. This is the Jade Illusory Heaven Opening Sword. The Heaven Emperor was slightly shocked. As his thoughts raced, he decided not to dodge, purposefully taking Nie Jingshan's sword. The body of a true immortal was hard to injure in the mortal world. However, the Heaven Emperor's figure wavered from Nie Jingshan's attack. His waist even arched slightly, as if he could not bear the burden. Although the Heaven Emperor was prepared, he still felt uncomfortable. He originally wanted to rely on his advantage in cultivation to defeat his opponent with a method that would cause both sides to suffer. Therefore, as his body wavered, he still grasped the chance to counterattack Nie Jingshan. However, after Nie Jingshan's sword had failed, he immediately retracted his sword light. Streams of illusory qi interweaved, formless and formless, once again blocking the Heaven Emperor's attack. Where the sword light passed, it completely broke apart the Heaven Emperor's attack, formed of immortal qi. Nie Jingshan's domineering sword opened a new path. No matter how many techniques you used, I would break them all with a single sword. The Heaven Emperor's figure shifted through space-time, temporarily pulling apart the distance between him and Nie Jingshin. True immortals are leakless. It is indeed not a lie. Nie Jingshin pointed his sword. The Heaven Emperor sized up the black-clothed youth in front of him, only speaking after a long time, pre-celestial eternal, never falling to post-celestial. So this is the true meaning of pre-celestial eternal, never falling to post-celestial eternal. Chapter 1149. It is not just the speed at which your true essence circulates. Your moves are also wondrous and untraceable. Looking at Nie Jingshin, the Heaven Emperor pondered for a moment before asking, earlier heaven eternal and strengthened by vitality, your opponent is actually unable to dispel your moves. Therefore, it was like an unstoppable mountain toppling over. Those who faced this sword intent were like piled eggs, as they could only helplessly watch themselves being crushed by the mountain. The majestic, sharp jade illusory heaven-opening sword was forcibly unleashed in an incomparably domineering manner by Nie Jingshin, earlier heaven inextinguishable, presiding over the entire universe. Nie Jingshin said calmly, "This Nie is naturally not invincible. Those who were stronger than him to a certain extent, surpassing a certain limit, might still be able to defeat Nie Jingshin in a head-on clash. Still, the Heaven Emperor was clearly not included in this. Many people were not present, even if their cultivation bases were higher than Nie Jingshin's. The Heaven Emperor gazed at Nie Jingshin. Your comprehension of the jade, illusory, heaven-opening sword far surpasses that of your fellow disciples. Let alone the profundities within, you even have your own unique understanding that is not limited to what the Sword Sovereign has imparted to you. Combining it with your unique earlier heaven nascent form, you have walked a path that belongs to you alone. It is not just talent. Even your comprehension ability is extraordinary, such that you are able to unleash your talent to the fullest. No wonder. Northwest Lien's words, that year indeed, meant that you had already surpassed Southwest by back then. When Nie Jingshin had been a mid-immortal bridge marshal saint, he had once sparred with the Northwestern Exalt Lien Zulin. If it had been a life-and-death battle, the outcome would have been unknown. Still, after the battle, the Northwestern Exalt Lien Zulin had said, of the Sword Sovereign's lineage, Jingshin was number one. As these words spread, everyone had different understandings of them. Some thought that Nie Jingshin's potential was the greatest, and his future accomplishments would be the greatest. Still, with the Heaven Emperor's cultivation base and discernment ability, after personally clashing with Nie Jingshin today, he could be certain that was actually Lien Zulin admitting that she was no match for him. If Nie Jingshin had fought to the death then, he would have already surpassed her, and the Southwestern Exalt Bai Tao, not a disciple of the Sword Sovereign, nor a disciple of the Sword God. The Heaven Emperor looked at Nie Jingshin with a complicated gaze. This poor Taoist will say something disrespectful to His Majesty the Sword Sovereign, but I'm afraid that your future achievements will surpass his. You have walked your own path, and your future achievements will not be lower than the exalted gold luminaries at the very least. If you don't die young, as your cultivation base grows higher and higher, and this sword Tao that belongs to you becomes more and more complete and profound, your future Heaven Emperor overpraises me. This Nie doesn't dare to accept it. Nie Jingshin stood in the air, holding his sword horizontally across his chest as he calmly looked at the Heaven Emperor. The Heaven Emperor shook his head. This humble Taoist believes that His Majesty the Sword Sovereign will have the same judgment. With his eyesight, he could naturally tell that although Nie Jingshin was going all out against him, he had not reached the point where his life was at stake. This was a young man who became stronger the stronger he was, and the more he fought, the braver he became. Of course, as a martial sage, he could not fight a true immortal to the death. When immortals descended into the mortal realm, they would definitely be invincible. The Heaven Emperor naturally had divine abilities that allowed him to casually form a formation. Still, after exchanging a few blows with Nie Jingshin, he gave up on trapping him with a formation. He had come here to attempt to retrieve the later Earth text. If he focused on controlling the formation, he might be able to trap Nie Jingshin for a longer period of time. Still, he would not have the time to retrieve the later Earth text. If he did not focus on controlling the formation, it would be like when he had battled with the female Emperor Jie Mingkong previously. Nie Jingshin would be able to charge out of the Grand Formation in an instant, and the Heaven Emperor would not be able to retrieve the later Earth text in such a short amount of time. While Nie Jingshin would not be able to harm him, with Nie Jingshin's interference, he would also be dreaming if he wanted to retrieve the later Earth text. The situation fell into a stalemate for a time. Kunlun's God-shocking dragon, you live up to your reputation. The Heaven Emperor let out a long sigh as his gaze completely calmed down. Still, he was not in a hurry to make a move as he just stood silently within the air. Seeing this, Nie Jingshin raised his brows slightly. While I made an agreement with someone that it would be either Yen Di or you to tie down Broad Creed Mountains people or Broad Creed Mountains helpers, this humble Taoist will definitely not obstruct Southern Nye from leaving just like this, the Heaven Emperor said mildly. Nie Jingshin raised his brows. What are you trying to say, Heaven Emperor? You should have long since heard of that black-clothed Fu Jinxiu who went to the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. The Heaven Emperor smiled. Still, you might not know this. The Earth Exalt has personally brought the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram out of Qilin Cliff. Originally, he was prepared to intercept you. Still, this humble Taoist understands what he is thinking by letting you go. It is just that he hopes to have a greater chance of success on his side. The white-clothed brocade emperor and the female emperor were both unable to make a move. Even if the Heaven Emperor was unable to fight 1 against 2, as long as Nie Jingshin did not possess the Origin Opening Sword, he would not be in any danger. The Heaven Emperor said slowly, while it was by chance that Yen Di was not at Broad Creed Mountain, the Earth Exalt was still able to intercept him. At the end of the day, it was merely the 4 of us exchanging opponents. Meanwhile, that snow crane will not be able to escape this tribulation at the end of the day. At the end of the day, her cultivation base is still a little low in our eyes. Nie Jingshin gazed coldly at the Heaven Emperor. Your target is Senior Apprentice Uncle Yan's wife. That is the Earth Exalt's target, not this humble Taoist, the Heaven Emperor said calmly. His target was naturally the later Earth text, just like how Wang Zhengcheng had watched as Nie Jingshin went to reinforce the southeast. The Heaven Emperor did not mind Nie Jingshin going to save Xue Chuqing. The black-clothed brocade emperor had intercepted Yen Zhaoge without retreating because he wanted to make use of this chance to analyze Yen Zhaoge's Tai fist. The Heaven Emperor had nothing to ask of Nie Jingshin. The Heaven Emperor would be extremely happy for Nie Jingshin to leave this place to save Xue Chuqing. With no one obstructing him, he would have sufficient time to retrieve the later Earth text. That is why this humble Taoist said earlier that if Southern Nye wants to leave, this humble Taoist will definitely not obstruct you. The Heaven Emperor stood amid space. It is true that the Yen father and son possess outstanding strength. Still, this humble Taoist should warn you again. Upper Chen is currently observing. It is not that there is no possibility of him making a move. With that, the Heaven Emperor spoke, no more as he just stood there calmly. While he was unable to do anything to Nie Jingshin, Nie Jingshin was unable to do anything to him as well. Hearing the Heaven Emperor's words, Nie Jingshin was unmoved as he said slowly, Qilin Cliff has the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram, while my Jade Capital Crag also has the Origin Opening Sword. At the end of the day, The Royal Reed Sea is still much further away from Jade Capital Crag than Yuanzhou City's Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. The Heaven Emperor was silent for a moment before he said, I believe that the disciples of your lineage will not be prejudiced against one another at a time like this. After all, Yan Zhaoge and his son can be considered half a fellow disciple of yours. Nie Jingshan suddenly laughed. Heaven Emperor, you seem to have misunderstood. When I came to the southeast, I also sent a message back asking Senior Apprentice Brother not to give me the sword. The Heaven Emperor's gaze hardened slightly. If the Origin Opening Sword is not given to me, Junior Apprentice Brother Yen, and Senior Apprentice Uncle, Yen would not have to worry about them, as it would be convenient for them to save others. Also, I would not have to choose between helping them save others or guarding the treasure. Nie Jingshan pointed his sword at the Heaven Emperor. Even without the Origin Opening Sword, it is already sufficient for me to be here. The Heaven Emperor knit his brows. You are so confident in the Yen father and son, it would be very difficult, Nie Jingshan said mildly. Chapter 1150. Hearing Nie Jingshan's words, the Heaven Emperor's frown deepened. He pondered for a moment before saying, From what you say, could it be that the Yen father and son have improved again recently? But if this humble Taoist does not remember wrongly, only 3 to 5 years have passed since they raised their cultivation bases previously. A look of surprise flickered within the Heaven Emperor's gaze. During Broad Creed Mountain's opening ceremony that year, Junior Apprentice Brother Yen once said that one day, even if he had yet to push open the door to immortality and leave the Royal Reed Sea and the later Earth text, you would still be unable to do anything to him, Heaven Emperor. And that day is not far away. Nie Jingshan smiled. While it sounded arrogant at the time, the facts proved that he would never speak without thinking about proper matters. Now, it is time for the prophecy to come true. It will indeed only be a few years. Hearing his words, the Heaven Emperor's heart sank slightly. He turned to look in the direction of the central June Heaven territory, gazing at the horizon as he was silent for a long time. At this moment, space suddenly split apart in the eastern vast Heaven territory. A wound of the sky that overflowed with light was formed. 2 men walked out from within, one garb in purple and the other in white. The purple-clothed man had a rather lazy expression on his face, though his gaze was filled with interest. The white-clothed man had a helpless and vexed expression on his face, as well as a look of pity. They were naturally the upper exalt Chen Qianhua and the earthly young master Chen Kunhua. Big brother, why did you have to make a trip here? While your injuries have healed, all your previous secluded cultivation has gone to waste. The white-clothed Chen Kunhua said helplessly, Even if you wanted to come, you should have waited for Qilin Cliff to urge you to make a move first. That way, you might have a chance to obtain the Heaven Opening Scripture. That is not important. Chen Qianhua looked around. I discovered that I was a little too lazy earlier. Perhaps many interesting things were right in front of me, yet I neglected them. For example, even with my help in concealing the heavenly secrets, that snow crane was actually still able to detect it, thus fleeing half a step ahead. Besides that half a river diagram, this person's attainments in earlier heaven divination are also very high. This is truly a pleasant surprise. Chen Qianhua smiled. Speaking of which, there's an old saying between her and that Yan Zhaoge father and son. People who aren't from the same family don't enter the same door. Chen Kunhua's face was filled with helplessness. Brother, if you had acted back then, that snow crane's cultivation would not have been as high as it is now. It would have been very easy to find it. That's true. Chen Qianhua suddenly understood. Isn't this considered unintentional? Not bad, not bad. In this way, life won't be so boring. It seems that I should stand by and watch more in the future. After many years, perhaps there will be more surprises. However, today, this snow crane ends here. He seemed regretful, but also indifferent. He raised his head towards the sky. Chen Qianhua's eyes flickered slightly. In the sky, streaks of originally invisible emerald light appeared and shuttled through the air. Naturally, there was a huge difference in the effectiveness of handing over the talisman to someone else to use and using it himself. Having returned to the world beyond worlds, Chen Qianhua's gaze flickered as jade-green light intermingled all over the sky. After a long time, the radiance dimmed once more, dissipating into nothingness. All right, the earth exalts, and the others don't have to worry about finding anyone now. Just tracking them is enough. There's only physical work left. Chen Qianhua smiled. His younger brother Chen Kuanhua was just about to say something when his expression suddenly changed slightly. He retrieved a talisman and lit it. The talisman burned, green smoke emanating from it, which condensed into words in midair. Chen Qianhua reverted to that lazy, indifferent look of indifference. Looking at the words, Chen Kuanhua was greatly shocked. How is this possible? The purple-clothed youth's interest was piqued now as he swiveled his head and glanced at it. The words originated from the earth, exalt Wang Zhengqing. He had requested Chen Qianhua to personally make a move this time. This was because the cultivation bases of Yan Zhaoga and his father had surpassed their predictions. From the news of the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion in Yuanzhou City, Yan Zhaoga's cultivation base had actually successfully advanced to the 9th level of the Martial Saint realm, the late Immortal Bridge stage. More importantly, Yan Zhaoga's strength as a 9th level Martial Saint directly suppressed the black-clothed Brocade Emperor. While he could not be certain of Yan Di's current strength, connecting Yan Zhaoga's bizarre improvement and Yan Di's similarly rapid advancement earlier, Wang Zhengqing discovered that he had to adjust his previous predictions. The difference in strength between the two sides had already undergone a massive change. If Chen Qianhua did not personally make a move, they might not be able to succeed this time. Oh, there really is a pleasant surprise? Chen Qianhua's gaze instantly lit up. Still, how could it be so fast? Chen Kuanhua was rendered wide-eyed and tongue-tied. If I remember correctly, Yan Zhaoga only attained the 8th level of the Martial Saint realm in the 9 underworlds over 4 years ago, right? Oh, wait. His father, Yan Di, seemed to have used even less time to advance from the 8th to the 9th level of the Martial Saint realm. In that case, he shouldn't have. Chen Kuanhua looked shockingly at his elder brother. Even in places with abundant spiritual qi, like Jade Capital Crag, Qilin Cliff, and Restful Immortal Valley, it should not be possible for him to advance so quickly, right? However supreme a genius they are, however superior their environment is, there are still some things that require time to be spent on. It is impossible to be saved, no matter what. He suddenly thought of something as his expression turned solemn. Could it be that this broad creed mountain grasps the thick spirit essence, condensing art like us? It shouldn't be, right? The world beyond worlds should not be able to gather the foundational materials for a second set of the thick spirit essence condensing art. Who knows? Chen Qianhua said, thick spirit essence condensing art, immortal ascension stairway, 7 paths centered mechanism, devilish divinity empowerment. There are only those few methods. Who cares about them? I only know that things are getting more and more interesting. Ha! Amidst his loud laughter, Chen Qianhua soared into the skies, vanishing from the spot. At the same time, someone else returned to the world beyond worlds from another wound of the sky, traversing extra-dimensional space. This person looked to be in his 30s or 40s, his temples tinged with starlight as his gaze was sharp and arrogant. It was none other than Yan Di. Not long ago, he had left Broad Creed Mountain and gone to the infinite space outside the world beyond worlds, establishing a new foreign dimension. Now that he had received news from Yan Zhaoga, he had hurried back as quickly as he could. Yendi's gaze was bright as it had never been before, yet also icy cold. He lowered his head to look at the compass in his hand. The needle of the compass was clearly a jade hairpin, the head of which was a snow crane. The needle swayed lightly as Yendi sped along in accordance with its direction. Now, streams of jade green light suddenly flickered in the sky up above. Yendi's gaze focused as he saw the needle of the compass, which had originally been rather unstable, suddenly stably pointing in a certain direction. He sucked in a deep breath, increasing his speed further as he advanced at full speed. Soon, Yendi arrived at Fog Tea Mountain in the vicinity of where the Eastern Vast Heaven Territory and the Central June Heaven Territory intersected. The needle indicated that he needed to head a little further north. Yet dim earthen yellow light suddenly surged before him, obscuring the heavens and the earth as it formed an egg-shaped clump of light. Chapter 1151. The oval-shaped clump of light enveloped over towards Yendi, seeking to envelop him within. Yendi was expressionless, not moving in the slightest. However, it was as if an invisible blade had appeared out of thin air, directly splitting the dull yellow light ball in front of him into two halves. The earthy yellow light scattered to both sides, revealing the figure of an old man. It was the Earth Exalt, Wang Zhengcheng. He sighed and said, "This old man sincerely hopes that the problem can be solved silently. I really don't want to meet with Sect Master Yen like this and hurt the relationship between our two sections. If you have anything to say, Earth Exalt, we can slowly talk about it later. Even if you do not look for this Yen will still look for you," Yendi said coldly. "Right now, this Yen has no time to waste with you." Wang Zhengcheng slowly shook his head. "Some people have made a mistake, and the one who bears the responsibility is not just him alone, but many others as well. In order to make up for his mistake, we can only do some unreasonable things. This old man cannot give way today, and I hope that Gate Master Yen can forgive me." "There is no need for you to give way." A cold light shot out of Yendi's eyes. "I will naturally sweep you aside." He straightened his palm like a blade and raised his arm. Then he took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of Wang Zhengcheng, slashing down with his blade. "I'm not surprised that Sect Master Yen doesn't understand. But since you're already here, I'll have to offend you today," Wang Zhengcheng said as he retreated. Streaks of light suddenly flashed around his body. Amidst the radiance, everything was revealed. There were mountains, rivers, deserts, and oceans. Wang Zhengcheng's figure seemed to have retreated into another world. That world wasn't small and weak like an ordinary foreign dimension or a lower realm. Instead, it actually seemed as vast as another world beyond worlds as the power of dimensions surged, shockingly beginning to compress the space-time of the world beyond worlds from within, causing the heavens and earth where the Central June Heaven Territory and the Eastern Vast Heaven Territory intersected to shake intensely. Yendi's saber descended, directly cleaving the heavens and earth before him into two. However, as the shattered void circulated, endless mountains and rivers were formed once again. The tall mountain roared, expanding unceasingly as though it possessed a life of its own as it surrounded Yendi. "This is the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram," Yendi asked coldly. Although he had never seen it before, he had heard of the leakless, immortal weapon that the earthly sovereign carried with him in the past. "This old man has no intention of fighting with Gate Master Yen. I only hope that Gate Master Yen can stay here for a while." Amidst the towering mountains and winding rivers, Wang Zhengcheng's voice rang out. As the mountains and rivers surged in reverse, they sought to draw Yendi into the diagram as well. Seeing this, Yendi did not evade as he continued forward. "Earth Exalt, you can't keep me here." With every step he took, the domineering and sharp aura around his body rose by a notch. In the end, Yendi's entire body was filled with light, his aura surging, as even the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram was actually unable to obstruct him. It was as if an ancient god had awoken from its slumber. It slowly opened its eyes and stood up. Every single step he took formed an unstoppable, unchangeable, and unparalleled imposing aura that crushed the mountains and rivers before him. The vast and boundless world seemed to crack bit by bit, and then it continued to expand. Yendi's body resembled a complete, independent, true universe that circulated on its own, completely breaking away from the starry sky of the outside world as it formed its own entity. Seeing this from within the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram, Wang Jingqing's heart sunk slightly. He actually really caused all the acupoints of his entire body to break through space, seeing true divinity. The acupoints of his entire body, be they major acupoints or hidden acupoints, had all seen divinity. He was just a single step away from the immortal realm, the peak of the Martial Saint realm, the peak of the 10th level of the Martial Saint realm, a human exalt. The Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion had stirred up winds and clouds over the past 3 years, drawing the gazes of countless people. Meanwhile, Yendi, who had been quiet and kept a low profile, seldom continuing to expand in even the southern blazing heaven territory, had successfully broken through the bottleneck these past 3 years, stepping into the human exalt Martial Saint realm. He had slain the southern exalt Zhuangshen at the 8th level of the Martial Saint realm that year. From that day onwards, everyone in the world beyond worlds had felt both anticipation and fear. They had been anticipating when Yendi would be able to step into the human exalt realm, fearful of how powerful he would be when he did so. Still, no one could have expected that this day would actually come so early that everyone had been taken by surprise. After learning of Yan Zhaoge's situation, the Earth Exalt Wang Zhengcheng had been somewhat mentally prepared for this. Still, when he truly faced it, he still felt shocked. Even the world formed of the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram actually appeared week before Yendi, who was finally displaying his true strength now. The heavenly dragon saber was unsheathed, landing in Yendi's hand. Yendi did not cease in his footsteps as he brandished his saber horizontally. The heavens and the earth instantly shook simultaneously, resembling a canvas that had been neatly cut into two from the center. Mountain peaks were reduced to ash, rivers directly severed. The new waves of the river surpassed the old, the new replacing the old. For the exalted gold luminary to have a descendant like this, congratulations indeed. As the mountains and rivers shattered, Wang Zhengqing's figure reappeared as he said softly, "Sadly, fate makes fools of people." A great amount of soil suddenly appeared amidst the shattered world of mountains and rivers. The soil reconstructed the mountains and rivers, continuing to block Yendi's path. Yin-Yang Earth Spirit soil? Yendi's expression did not change as he instead asked, "I heard that the essence of the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram lies in the derivation of the Yin-Yang Earth Golden Lotus. Can you do that, Earth Exalt?" Amidst his words, he raised the saber in his hand high before chopping downwards, opening the heavens and punishing the heavens, the birth and destruction of worlds. The unstoppable saber light that resembled the changes of creation was majestic and tyrannical as it forcibly broke through the layers of soil before him. Wang Zhengcheng stood at the center of the black-yellow soil, his palms moving together in a seemingly slow yet continuous manner. A supreme martial art of the earthly sovereign's direct lineage, the Nine Heavens Breath Palm, merged with the power of the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram as it met Yendi's saber. As its name suggested, the Nine Heavens Breath Palm was a supreme martial art that had finally been formed by analyzing and imitating the profundities of the Nine Heavens Breath soil. When used for defense, it would fluctuate with the enemy's attacks, changing like external enemies. You big I big, you small I small, it would shift and shift, tough and dense as it was invulnerable. When used for offense, thunder would be born from the palm, pressing and rubbing against the enemy as the enemy's body and soul would be extinguished. However, as Wang Zhengcheng executed it now, he only defended and not attacked as he coordinated with the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram to defend against Yan Di's saber. This immortal artifact was proficient in defense and trapping enemies in the first place. Now that Wang Zhengcheng was wielding it, it complemented each other perfectly. Yet Yan Di ignored this completely. Regardless of what lay ahead, he chopped down with his saber, using creation as a saber to hack out a great, straight path. Where the majestic, tyrannical creation saber passed, the tough, dense, and seemingly invulnerable layers of soil before him were consecutively broken through as well. Even more soil filled in, only to be hacked apart by an even more ferocious saber-light. While the thick soil was boundless, the changes of creation were even more unstoppable as the vast ocean was forcibly turned into mulberry fields, the thick soil into clouds and smoke. You are strong. I am stronger than you. A foot-tall soil, a foot-tall saber. Chapter 1152. Yan Di's saber-light descended unceasingly, breaking apart the black-yellow soil formed of Wang Zhengcheng's 9 heavenly breath palm and the yin-yang spirit soil. The speed at which the soil was replenished was unable to keep up with the descending speed of Yan Di's saber-light as it was forcibly hacked apart. Wang Zhengcheng's expression was grave as he took a deep breath. While Yan Di would not be able to harm the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram itself, breaking through the spiritual force of the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram might be able to harm him as its user. The instant the saber light was about to land on Wang Zhengcheng's head, he suddenly put his palms together and curled his fingers into fists, forming a fist stance. Streams of black and yellow air swirled around Wang Zhengcheng's body, before gathering together to form an air barrier. The strongest defensive secret art of Qilin Cliff, the mysterious yellow origin, returning Mother Fist. Wang Zhengcheng's stance was even stronger than when he used the 9 heavens breath palm to defend himself. The layers of Yin-Yang Earth Spirit soil in the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram gathered with Wang Zheng as the center and continuously strengthened it. Although Wang Zhengcheng could not nurture the Yin-Yang Golden Lotus, the power of the Yin-Yang Mountain River painting bolstered his heaven and earth origin returning Mother Fist, immediately forming a shocking defense. At this moment, Wang Zhengcheng seemed to have transformed into the mortal world, silent and deep, and he seemed to be able to bear all pressure. The creation of the world seemed to have returned to the earliest moments after the creation of the world. The source of all things, the primordial earth, black and yellow enveloped it, untainted and unclean. Yan Di's saber descended, the chi of heaven and earth overflowing as the great earth shattered unceasingly. However, Wang Zhengcheng managed to receive this blow. However, at this moment, he had completely given up on attacking and focused on defending. Seeing this, Yan Di instead raised his brows. Looks like you're really unable to wield the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram to produce the Golden Lotus, Earth Exalt. Is it really because you haven't pushed open the immortal door? I am ashamed. The chi of heaven and earth revolved, turning into a perfectly round sphere that floated in the air. Wang Zhengcheng's voice came from the sphere. The sphere was not large in size. Facing Yan Di's attacks, it was even shrinking further as its power grew more and more condensed and sturdy. However, in your current state, how are you going to stop me? Yan Di said mildly, without the Yin-Yang Golden Lotus. Even if you brought the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram with you. So what? As he spoke, he ignored Wang Zhengcheng and continued to head north without stopping. Yan Di passed by that sphere, but this time there was only a wordless silence within the sphere. Currently, Yan Di could leave as and when he wanted to. With Wang Zhengcheng fully focused on defense, he was unable to keep him occupied at all. It was not that the Wang Zhengcheng within the sphere did not want to block Yandi's path. However, the spiritual senses of this most veteran exalt martial saint of the world beyond worlds could clearly sense a trace of icy coldness hanging right above his head. It was like a real blade, and Wang Zhengcheng felt as if his skin was touching that cold blade. He did not doubt in the slightest that as long as he made the slightest strange movement and tried to pursue and obstruct him once more, causing the defenses of the heavenly yellow origin returning Mother Fist to weaken in the slightest, Yendi would immediately turn around and hack over with his saber. Those close to us feel pain, while those close to us rejoice. Fate makes fools of us. Our world beyond worlds just so happens to be embroiled in this internal conflict. I'm afraid that these old bones of mine will have to go all out today. Wang Zhengcheng heaved a long sigh in his heart, but in the end, he did not continue to defend. He retracted the mysterious yellow origin, returning Mother Fist, and once again used the 9 heavens breath palm. The layers of yin-yang earth spirit soil transformed into a world of mountains and rivers once more, enveloping over towards Yendi, wanting to delay him once more and prevent him from leaving. Earth Exalt, do you think that this Yen does not dare to kill you? Yendi did not hesitate in the slightest as he turned around and hacked out with his saber. Wang Zhengcheng's palms faced inwards as he clapped outwards, forcibly catching the blade of Yendi's saber. There are some things that require sacrifice, Wang Zhengcheng said slowly. If others can be sacrificed, this old man will naturally be sacrificed as well. If this is fate, there is nothing that can be done about it. Where Yendi's saber passed, a domineering, vigorous saber intent hacked down madly. The yin-yang earth spirit soil that surrounded the saber light broke apart unceasingly. The cold light descended slowly yet unceasingly, getting closer and closer to the top of Wang Zhengcheng's head. This Yen admires the Earth Exalt's noble character and unquestionable integrity. Yendi said coldly, "It is just a pity that I do not agree that you hold the authority to decide who is to be sacrificed." Wang Zhengcheng shook his head. "It is not this old man's decision, nor is it my master's decision, nor is it someone's decision. Instead, it is the decision of the general trend of this era. At the end of the day, you still feel that you are the ones who can clearly see the general trend of this era, while others cannot." Yendi's expression was indifferent as he unceasingly pressed down with his saber. "Let's just say that you are right." Still, Yendi's saber shook, Wang Zhengcheng's palms forcibly breaking apart. "Sometimes, some things, even if I have to go against the trend, this Yen will not hesitate to do so." As his saber hacked downwards, the layers of yin-yang earth spirit soil were completely broken apart. The Earth Exalt Wang Zhengcheng's face was revealed beneath the shattered earth. The two stood facing each other, barely a foot away from each other. Yendi did not hesitate as he hacked downwards with his saber once more. Wang Zhengcheng executed the heaven and earth origin, returning Mother Fist. Still, in his haste, he was unable to form a perfect defense. Beneath Yendi's saber, blood immediately flowed. Protected by the yin-yang earth mountain river diagram, Wang Zhengcheng could only stagger backwards as he attempted to regroup. In the distance, spiritual qi suddenly surged, resembling the surging tides of the sea. Then, a purple-clothed youth seemingly disregarded distance as he suddenly appeared between the two of them. Yendi ignored this completely as he struck out with his saber once more. That purple-clothed youth's figure drifted indeterminately as he seemed incorporeal. Yet where Yendi's saber light passed, his tyrannical saber intent forcibly squeezed his opponent out of the realm of incorporeal, breaking through his grand beginning bright emptiness form and causing it to turn illusory into real once more. "Huh, what tyrannical saber arts. Seeing it once is better than hearing about it 100 times. The purple-clothed youth's gaze instead emitted a strange light as he extended a hand just like that. He spread his fingers apart, yin and yang circulating on his thumb, space shaking on his index finger, time flowing like water on his middle finger, myriad objects intermingling on his ring finger, and life forms flourishing on his little finger. His palm bulged slightly, resembling a small drum, whilst also resembling a human heart as it beat unceasingly, rhythmic sounds emanating from within. Hearing this sound, one's soul seemed to shake along with it. It was none other than the later heaven's 6 scriptures of the primordial heavenly scriptures being executed simultaneously. The newcomer was naturally the upper exalt, Chen Qianhua, having already clashed with Yan Zhaoge and Nie Jingshan. I too want to see what it is like to fight you, he smiled. Chen Qianhua used his bare hands to block Yendi's creation saber, bolstering his palm with the foundation of the world as he forcibly received Yendi's creation saber. Yendi said coldly, "Scram!" The foundation of the world of the jade, clear lineages, later heaven's 6 scriptures merged as one, bearing the transformations of earlier heaven as it was most proficient in dealing with earlier heaven martial arts. Yet, Yendi's creation saber changed from earlier heaven to later heaven, from later heaven to destruction. Beneath the crushing momentum, the creation of the world was directly sent into destruction as even Chen Qianhua's foundation of the world would be unable to withstand it. Yin and yang, space, time, all things, life forms, and minds were all shattered beneath the destruction of the saber light. Chapter 1153. Yendi brandished his saber mightily, advancing with indomitable will. The saber light swept through everything in its path as it battled the strongest of the world beyond worlds, 10 exalts, the upper and lower exalts, within a single day. Your saber and Nie Jingshan's sword are so powerful. Chen Qianhua exclaimed in admiration. I really want to see how the two of you fight. Even as the foundation of the world was unceasingly broken apart by Yendi's saber light, Chen Qianhua was in no hurry. His other hand struck out towards Yendi. The palm seemed to be collapsing, and heaven and earth were overturned. It was the flipping sky seal. Yendi had cultivated in the cyclic heavenly scripture as well. However, he had mostly used it to accumulate his true essence and temper his fleshly body, absorbing a portion of its principles for his own use and infusing it into his saber arts. Yendi could also see through Chen Qianhua's cyclic heavenly seal. However, this cyclic heavenly seal of his was not aimed directly at Yendi, instead resonating with the palm of his other hand. Under the mysteries of the flipping sky seal, the foundation of the world, which had begun to collapse and was heading towards its end, actually stopped declining. Not only did it stop its decline, but the flow of spiritual qi in the foundation of the world had also reversed, due to Yendi's saber. The foundation of the world, which had been heading towards the end of later heaven, vaguely returned to later heaven at this moment, returning to its most primitive state. This move was similar to Yan Zhaoge's cyclic heavenly seal, executing the returning to earlier heaven variation. It could be said to be a variation of reversing later heaven. Although it wasn't as powerful as return to Khanate, it could be used to stabilize the foundation of the world and play a defensive role. Seeing this, Yendi raised his brows slightly. His response was to strike again and continue to strengthen his attack. The incomparably domineering creation saber slashed down, and Chen Qianhua's foundation of the world immediately collapsed. Wherever the saber light went, the process of creation's transformation was almost impossible to reverse. Even if Chen Qianhua wanted to go against the flow, he would find it hard to do so. He could only watch as the vast saber light surged forward, sweeping everything in its path. Although the flipping sky seal combined with the power of the foundation of the world had slowed down the process, it was still not enough. However, the advance of the tide was unstoppable. No matter how slow he would never stop. Qianhua took a deep breath. 2 streams of air, one red and one white, spurted out from his nostrils and circulated around his body. It was the prime, clear, direct lineage's bright crimson tribulation scripture. Then wisps of plain-colored mist emerged from the acupoints all over his body and surrounded him. Grand plainness, immeasurable body. Yandi's gaze focused slightly. Qianhua smiled. No need to find it strange. I exchanged my walking stick technique with that black-clothed brocade emperor. As he spoke, his figure began to become illusory. He had once again used the bright beginning body of emptiness. With the fusion of Tai Su and Tai Shi's 2 great techniques, Qianhua's defensive power immediately rose rapidly. More importantly, after using the bright Crimson Calamity Sutra to temporarily replace the Taiji Yin-Yang palm, the Heaven Flipping Seal's transformation was complete. Starting from the Heaven Flipping Seal, he went against the flow. With the Heaven Flipping Seal as a link, he went through Taiji and Tai Su to Tai Shi. Although it could not be traced back to Tai and Tai Chu, it had already traced back the scene of the creation of the heavens to the realm of concrete immaterial. With that, it was able to resist Yandi's creation saber to a great extent. Even when the saber light finally broke through the foundation of the world and broke through, it was no longer as unrivaled as before. Qianhua's multi-pronged attack seemed to be going against the will of the heavens. If my son Yen Zhaoge uses it, there might still be a chance. Yendi was unmoved in the least. You merely have the looks. As he spoke, he raised the saber in his hand once more. Then, thousands of sabers slashed down consecutively like a thunderstorm. The domineering saber light seemed to be able to open up a world before destroying it. Numerous saber lights struck down on every single detail of Qianhua's fist intent, causing him to be fatigued in dealing with them. They were both knowledgeable and proficient in many supreme martial arts. Still, the greatest difference between Yen Zhaoge and Qianhua was displayed at this moment. The former was fused together, while the latter accumulated and accumulated. While they usually seemed similar, it was the result of 1 + 1 = 2. Still, when Qianhua executed many martial arts at the same time at a critical moment, it was hard for him to achieve complete control over the details. The various martial arts were clearly separated at the end of the day. These boundaries would become the focus of the opponent's attacks, resulting in the phenomenon of 1 + 1 being less than 2. Meanwhile, under the same circumstances, Yen Zhaoge was instead 1 + 1 being more than 2. Of course, in order to make use of this, one's cultivation base could not be lower than Qianhua's. How many people in the entire world beyond worlds dared to say that Qianhua only had the looks? Meanwhile, Yendi could not be clearer about this, as he was also better at making use of it than others. It's really hard to restrain and block your saber. A rare look of defeat appeared on Qianhua's face as he seemed dissatisfied with his own performance. Since that is the case, I can only meet your attacks with attacks. Amidst his words, his figure abruptly spun. As he executed the jade, clear lineage's spatial heavenly scripture, aeon light heavenly scripture, and the grand, clear, grand, beginning bright emptiness form, Qianhua's figure began to turn indistinct at times. After abandoning the foundation of the world and no longer focusing solely on defense, Qianhua began to unleash the miraculous effects of the spatial heavenly scripture, aeon light heavenly scripture, and other supreme martial arts on their own, their power increasingly manifesting. His entire person became agile and swift as he no longer attempted to forcibly block Yendi's saber head-on, as he instead began attacking Yan Di from various angles, clashing with him. Yan Di's expression did not change as his condensed saber light began to expand, shattering the sky. Both sides gradually left the world beyond worlds, their battlefield extending into extra-dimensional space. Space grew vast, but Yan Di's saber light was even more majestic as it seemed to occupy the entire surrounding space. Ever since he had started cultivating in martial arts, he had never been afraid of clashing head-on with others. Moreover, he now possessed the grand simplicity splendor cloud. This treasure that had accompanied him for life grew more profound and powerful as his cultivation base increased. The pervading starry clouds seemed to bloom as they hovered above Yan Di's head. Whether it was the cyclic heavenly seal, the scepter, the bright crimson divine palm, or the grand beginning bright emptiness form, all of Chen Qianhua's attacks were dissipated into nothingness as they landed on the grand simplicity splendor cloud. This even made Chen Qianhua feel like he was facing off against leakless true immortals like the Heaven Emperor and the encompassing Emperor. Still, the more this was so, the more his interest was stimulated. After testing out Yan Di's attacks, Chen Qianhua wanted to see if he could break through the defenses of the grand simplicity splendor cloud. Yan Di looked coldly at Chen Qianhua. Whether Chen Qianhua used the heavenly heart ruler or not, it would not affect Yan Di's full power. He had no interest in knowing what Chen Qianhua was thinking, nor did he have any obligation to cooperate. He was in a rush to save someone, a life at stake. If someone was playing this game for fun, he would let them know that this was a game that they could not afford to play. Yan Di's thoughts were very simple. He would sweep away all obstacles that dared stand in his way. After gradually familiarizing himself with the rhythm of Chen Qianhua's shifting of space, the light of thunder abruptly surged on the tip of Yan Di's saber. Chapter 1154. Yan Di brandished his saber, the light of thunder on its blade rippling outwards, causing the surrounding space to shake as well. Wherever the ripple-like lightning went, space seemed to be completely frozen. Even with Chen Qianhua's cultivation, his movements were immediately hindered and slowed down. Void spatial thunder. Chen Qianhua immediately reacted. Back in the 9 underworlds, Yan Zhaoga had collected a portion of the thunder clouds of the grand illusory spatial thunder and brought it back to the world beyond worlds. Yan Di's mastery of grand illusory spatial thunder stemmed from this. Still, didn't Yan Zhaoga tell you about it? Chen Qianhua did not mind. I also gained something from that grand illusory spatial thunder. As he spoke, lightning surged from his body, forming a bubble-like existence. As soon as the bubble appeared, Chen Qianhua was able to move freely again. Yan Di seemed unconcerned about this. He only stared coldly at Chen Qianhua. At the same time, the torrential saber intent was getting stronger and stronger. Chen Qianhua's gaze lit up slightly. Still, due to the grand simplicity splendor cloud, he was unable to see through Yan Di's intentions. On the other side, a bad premonition rose in the heart of the earth exalt, Wang Zhengcheng. After Chen Qianhua had clashed with Yan Di, Wang Zhengcheng had retreated to the side. To him, he did not necessarily have to defeat Yan Di in this battle. All he had to do was delay Yan Di here. If not for Yan Di constantly suppressing Chen Qianhua, Wang Zhengcheng would actually be more willing to go block Yan Zhaoga, who was suppressing the black-clothed brocade emperor, or just go look for Xue Chuqing directly. Yet, Yan Di's actions before him caused his heart to palpitate. Numerous arcs of thunder overlapped space as they condensed on Yan Di's saber, actually vaguely forming an even sharper saber. Then, Yan Di drew out his saber, drawing the heavenly dragon saber from within that saber of thunderbolts. Then he put it away. Yan Di's movements resembled drawing a saber from its scabbard. However, When this scene entered the eyes of the two supreme beings, it actually produced the same type of strange feeling. It was as if the heavenly dragon saber was the scabbard. The formless blade that stood in the void without dispersing was the real blade. The surface of the heavenly dragon saber that Yan Di had kept was currently riddled with numerous fine cracks. Chen Shangfang's attack did not land on his blade. Wang Jingqing's heart skipped a beat. These scars were all caused by his own blade intent. Wait, could it be? Wang Zhengcheng was horrified. Chen Qianhua's eyes shone as he stared at Yan Di. Is this your true saber? Yan Di did not answer as he made a grabbing motion with his empty hand, catching that formless saber formed of thunderbolts. In an instant, boundless radiance burst forth from the formless blade, illuminating the surrounding dark void. Then, Yan Di raised his lightsaber. Then it slashed down. Like a heavenly tribulation, the blade slashed towards Chen Qianhua. Chen Qianhua felt that no matter how he moved, he would not be able to avoid this strike. Still, he had not intended to evade in the first place, as he instead took the initiative to meet it, golden flames surging within his palms as he struck out towards Yan Di. The innately fire divine palm landed on the Grand Simplicity Splendor cloud, and finally, the Grand Simplicity Splendor cloud trembled and even weakened. But in the end, it did not pierce through the Grand Simplicity Splendor cloud. Meanwhile, that saber of light had already arrived above Chen Qianhua's head. The saber was like the unstoppable momentum of the heavens and the earth. Also, it was different from Yan Di's saber intent in the past. Creation went from creation to destruction, its momentum unstoppable as it was originally already an irreversible process. Even as Yan Di's saber manifested this process, it was shockingly pushing forward unceasingly, accelerating this process unceasingly. It made it faster, fiercer, more tyrannical, more unstoppable. Creation saber, instantaneous heaven annihilation. Chen Qianhua inhaled deeply, executing the grand plainness immeasurable body and the grand beginning bright emptiness formed together to buy time. His left hand manifested the profundities of the spatial heavenly scripture, while his right hand manifested the aeon light heavenly scripture. Grand illusory spatial thunder surrounded him as he exerted his final effort, finally allowing him to shift through space, barely avoiding his vitals. Even so, however, Yan Di's saber light still heavily hacked down on his body. Fresh blood instantly filled the air. Chen Qianhua was sent flying backwards, a saber wound running from his right shoulder to his left waist, blood and flesh splattering everywhere. Such saber intent and saber arts. Wang Zhengcheng was shocked as he watched this scene. Cough, 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 cough. It's true that those who are not of the same family are not of the same family. Chen Qianhua instead smiled, even looking rather joyful. Battling with those of similar cultivation bases, it was only when I fought with Yan Zhaoge last time that my injuries were worse than today's. Cough, cough. Boosted by the foundation of the world alone, Chen Qianhua discovered that his injuries were recovering at a much slower rate than he had expected. The remnant saber intent of Yan Di's creation saber suppressed his foundation of the world to a certain extent. He simultaneously unleashed multiple pre-celestial supreme martial arts. Only with the combination of pre-celestial and post-celestial supreme martial arts could the foundation of the world exert its effects, causing Chen Qianhua's injuries to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. I still couldn't break through your Grand Simplicity Splendor cloud. Chen Qianhua felt rather regretful about something else now. I really feel rather regretful now that I don't know the heaven-opening scripture. Wang Zhengcheng dared not hesitate as he hurriedly stepped forward, standing between the two. Chen Qianhua possessed the foundation of the world. If he did not die from a single blow, there would still be hope for him to recover. Still, it would be impossible for him to do so in a single stroke. It was just that Wang Zhengcheng had no confidence in facing Yan Di's saber earlier. The saber of light in Yan Di's hand dissipated, returning to formlessness. After glancing coldly at Chen Qianhua and Wang Zhengcheng, Yan Di did not linger as he headed north. He was still concerned about Xue Chuqing at the end of the day. Her life was at stake as every second counted. Wang Zhengcheng, Chen Qianhua, the black-clothed brocade emperor, and the heaven emperor aside, the other side definitely still had people dealing with Xue Chuqing. Looking at Yan Di's departing figure, Wang Zhengcheng inhaled deeply, preparing to follow. While Yan Di's saber had left him incomparably shocked, Wang Zhengcheng had to do his best to delay Yan Di for the sake of his plan, even if his life was at risk. You can chase after him. He is likely unable to consecutively unleash that saber earlier. Chen Qianhua chuckled. Still, I cannot say for sure how long the interval will be. Wang Zhengcheng looked at Chen Qianhua. Upper Exalt, I've already had my fill today. The Yan father and son are indeed extraordinary. Before the other party could finish speaking, Chen Qianhua chortled as he drifted off into the distance. Wang Zhengcheng sighed towards the heavens. Now, he suddenly sensed something. Swiveling his head in another direction, he saw infinite radiance suddenly surging amidst space. Amidst the radiance, two figures were entangled as they approached the battlefield. They were none other than Yan Zhaoge and the black-clothed brocade emperor. While he was unable to shake off the black-clothed brocade emperor, the latter was still unable to truly obstruct Yan Zhaoge at the end of the day, as he could only slow him down. The two fought as they moved. Fog Tea Mountain was not far from the central June Heaven territory in the first place, as they had already reached this region as they clashed. Seeing this, Wang Zhengcheng's heart sank even further. Chapter 1155. Yan Zhaoge's cyclic, heavenly seal descended, forcing the black-clothed brocade emperor into retreat once more. Then he swept his gaze across the vast void before him. Creation saber, the foundation of the world. With the great battle having just ended earlier, there were still remnants of auras in the air that Yan Zhaoge could barely distinguish. It looks like you were unable to keep my father here. Yan Zhaoge gazed at the earth. Exalt, Wang Zhengcheng, what about Upper Chen? Did he go after my father? Wang Zhengcheng sighed. Without saying a word, he prepared to head north as well. Yan Zhaoge's figure flickered, as he had already intercepted him. Since the Earth Exalt did not manage to keep my father here, this Yan will have to ask the Earth Exalt to stay. Since his father had successfully broken through the encirclement first, Yan Zhaoge was no longer in a rush. On the contrary, if she could obstruct both the black-clothed brocade emperor and the Earth Exalt Wang Zhengcheng here, there would be fewer variables on Yan Di's side, and Xue Chuqing's situation would be safer as well. I have already done my best. Please forgive me. Earth Exalt. The black-clothed brocade emperor's expression was as calm as ever, just that his gaze that was on Yan Zhaoge was filled with caution and solemnity. You are too polite, Your Majesty. It was this old man who had miscalculated. I had not thought that my opponent's cultivation base would actually soar once more in just a few short years. Wang Zhengcheng first nodded towards the black-clothed brocade emperor in greeting before swiveling his head to look at Yan Zhaoge with a complex expression on his face. The father and son of the Yan family are both fallen deities. Nian Nanfang's words are definitely not an exaggeration. After the great calamity, it is truly a joyous matter for our Taoism to have produced talents like you and your father. What a pity, what a pity! If your father had not married the snow crane back then, if the fallen deity had not become the successor of the dim, radiant emperor that day, it would have been great. His hands behind his back, Yan Zhaoge said quietly, Elder Wang's words now are rather meaningless. You are right, exiled immortal. This old man is just lamenting that fate makes fools of people, e'en dim radiance, and who Tongming have left behind endless evil. Wang Zhengcheng sighed. Whatever you say, Elder Wang, Yin Zhaoge said nonchalantly. Anyway, this yin will still do whatever I have to do. For example, I really want to kill you right now. Yin Zhaoge's tone was very relaxed, but the killing intent contained within was bone-piercing cold, not concealed in the slightest. The Earth Exalt Wang Zhengcheng had lived for thousands of years and had experienced countless storms and waves in his life, facing countless life and death situations. However, this was the first time Wang Zhengcheng encountered a young man who was less than a fraction of his age, saying that he wanted to kill him. The crux of the matter was that while the other party was only a late immortal bridge martial saint, but Wang Zhengcheng also had to admit that this was not a bluff, but a real death threat. Just looking at how even the black-clothed brocade emperor had actually been unable to defeat Yin Zhaoge, Wang Zhengcheng knew that even with the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram, as long as he was the slightest bit careless, he might still be slain by Yin Zhaoge on the spot. Does the Earth Exalt think that we father and son are easy to bully? Yin Zhaoge gazed coldly at Wang Zhengcheng. Wang Zhengcheng shook his head. I wouldn't dare. In his plan, it would be best to hide it from Yin Zhaoge, and Yin Di, soundlessly killing Xue Chuqing and erasing her from the face of this world. After that, no one knew what had happened to Xue Chuqing. As a result, Yin Zhaoge and Yin Di still believed that Xue Chuqing's whereabouts were unknown as she wandered about. Finding Xue Chuqing would not be easy as a disturbance was bound to be caused. Wang Zhengcheng and the others also knew that Yin Zhaoge and Yin Di were also searching for someone, as they would definitely react to the disturbance. Therefore, they had hoped to make use of the disturbances in the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion and the Royal Reed Sea to draw the attention of Yin Zhaoge and the others before launching a diversionary attack. Sadly, Yin Zhaoge and the others had reacted very quickly. Also, surpassing Wang Zhengcheng's expectations was that the other side's strength had improved by leaps and bounds within a short period of time, such that they were instead lacking in manpower as they were unable to continue. While Wang Zhengcheng had yet to give up, there were already signs of failure on the verge of success. Amidst space, Wang Zhengcheng still could not help but look towards the world beyond worlds before him as his heart burned with anxiety. Where are you looking, Earth Exalt? Yin Zhaoge's figure suddenly filled his field of vision. The next moment, a palm descended from the heavens. Wang Zhengcheng took a deep breath, and a powerful force suddenly erupted from his aged body. He assumed a fist stance with his left hand, sinking it into his dantian, before clenching the fingers of his right hand into a fist and punching upwards. Beneath this fist, numerous graceful streams of qi surged from the acupoints of his entire body, intermingling as they vaguely condensed into an illusory figure. Enveloped by the illusory figure, Wang Zhengcheng's fist seemed to have transformed into an object that resembled a banner, whilst also an axe. Where the force of his fist passed, dim space broke apart, emitting bright light as boundless thick earth appeared that was between earlier and later heaven. At this moment, it was not that the sky was collapsing. Instead, it was that the great earth was rising. The thick great earth rose unceasingly, rising as high as the heavens, conforming with the heavens, as it even seemed like it wanted to shatter the very heavens. Qilin Cliff's direct lineage martial art, Yin-Yang earth-heaven-breaking hammer. Wang Zhengcheng was a conservative and prudent person. When he had clashed with Yin Di earlier, it had only been to obstruct him. Therefore, he had fought extremely conservatively, as he had been focused on delaying for time. Now that he was facing Yin Zhaoge, the position of the intruder and obstructor having been swapped, this most veteran martial saint of the world beyond worlds could no longer be bothered with maintaining his composure, as he directly unleashed his most powerful killing move. The Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram expanded, numerous layers of Yin-Yang Earth spirit soil enveloping it, combining with the great earth formed of Wang Zhengqing's fist intent and true essence as its power increased exponentially, becoming heavy to the point of being incomparably heavy, bolstered by an immortal artifact. This fist of Wang Zhengqing's was something that even emperors would have to take seriously. Yet, Yan Zhaoge ignored it as he mightily smashed downwards with a cyclic heavenly seal. As the two sides collided, it was like the heavens and the earth, one sinking while the other rising as they approached each other before mightily colliding. This is reversing creation? Wang Zhengqing's expression changed. Martial saints can execute the reversing creation of the cyclic heavenly seal. The collision of the heavens and the earth shockingly ended with the heavens crushing the earth. Of the Jade Clear Direct lineage's earlier Heaven 3 scriptures, the Heaven Opening scripture possessed the greatest offensive power, as it surpassed the cyclic heavenly scripture by a level. The Yin-Yang Earth Heaven-breaking hammer of the lineage of the earthly sovereigns Qilin Cliff originated from the Yin-Yang Earth Heaven Opening art. It was a manifestation of the heaven-opening scripture of the earth, water, fire, and wind, developing its own style as it flourished. Still, the superiority of martial arts was one aspect. There were also differences in the people who executed them. Yan Zhaoge's attainments in the cyclic heavenly seal were so great that even many immortal realm experts would be hard-pressed to reach him. Having already cultivated in this supreme martial art to an extremely high level, he was naturally able to unleash a terrifying might that far surpassed the imagination of martial practitioners of the same cultivation level. Even the earth exalt Wang Zhengqing, who had been immersed in the Yin-Yang Earth Heaven breaking hammer for many years, was hard-pressed to withstand the might of Yan Zhaoge's cyclic heavenly seal now. The great earth shattered unceasingly, while the sky continued collapsing downwards. Seeing this, the black-clothed brocade emperor's gaze flickered slightly as he drifted over to Yan Zhaoge's side before tapping out with a finger. "Ha!" Yan Zhaoge exhaled and roared, his right hand not moving as he raised his left hand, executing an identical cyclic heavenly seal as he met the brocade emperor's grand commencement divine finger. Chapter 1156. Yan Zhaoge struck out with both his hands, simultaneously striking out with the cyclic heavenly seals, forcibly clashing against the black-clothed brocade emperor and the earth exalt Wang Zhengqing. On one side was the grand, clear, direct lineage's grand, primordial divine finger, one of the grand Cosmos 5 manifestations. It was formless, shapeless, and boundlessly graceful. On one side was the Jade Clear lineage's supreme martial art, the Yin-Yang Earth Heaven-breaking hammer of the Qilin Cliff. It was forceful, tyrannical, and earth-shattering. Yan Zhaoge was currently fighting 1 against 2 with his cultivation base at the 9th level of the martial saint realm. His body swayed slightly at first, but soon Yin and Yang energies intertwined and circulated above his head. As the great Tao of Yin and Yang shifted, the black-clothed brocade emperor and Wang Zhengqing simultaneously felt their attacks being affected. Yin-Yang Heavenly Scroll. Wang Zhengqing and Yi Zichen realized the problem at the same time. Yan Zhaoge, who possessed the Yin-Yang Heavenly Scripture and had great attainments in it, did not fear being ganged up on. Unless there was a way to decipher the mysteries of the Yin-Yang Heavenly Book, or if there was someone among the enemies who was clearly stronger than him and could draw most of his attention. Yin and Yang above Yan Zhaoge's head, Taiji beneath his feet as he abruptly spun with himself as the axis. As he executed the Yin-Yang Heavenly Scripture and the Taiji Yin-Yang palm together, the concept of the cyclic Heavenly Scripture was also merged by Yan Zhaoge. This rotation reversed the universe as it shockingly guided Wang Zhengqing's Yin-Yang Earth Heaven-breaking hammer towards the black-clothed brocade emperor. Meanwhile, the black-clothed brocade emperor's grand commencement divine, finger pointed towards Wang Zhengcheng and the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram, with the cultivation bases of the brocade emperor and Wang Zhengcheng, they would naturally not be used against them. But at this moment, their attacks were clearly biased towards each other. It was not a deviation in direction, but a deviation in logic. It was as if their earlier attack on Yan Zhaoge had actually been a facade, their true targets having originally been prepared to attack each other. Everything that was happening now was just a facade being stripped away and returning to reality. If they wanted to change this, the black-clothed brocade emperor and Wang Zhengcheng could only retract their attacks, halting halfway through. However, the black-clothed brocade emperor's expression was calm as he remained unmoved. He just so happened to be someone who had a way to resolve the mysteries of the yin-yang heavenly scripture. He used the grand primordium divine finger with one hand, while the yin and yang fishes hugged each other in the center of his other palm, turning into a Tai Chi diagram that spun rapidly. Bolstered by the true intent of the Taiji yin-yang palm, the black-clothed brocade emperor's grand commencement divine finger instantly broke free of the influence of the profundities of Yan Zhaoge's yin-yang heavenly scripture, pointing towards him once more. On the other side, the earth exalt, Wang Zhengcheng, took a deep breath. His left fist, which was at his waist, could not be bothered to defend himself. He struck upwards with a backhand palm. It was also the flipping sky seal. While his attainments were not as deep as Yan Zhaoge's, Wang Zhengcheng did not expect his cyclic heavenly seal to defeat Yan Zhaoge's cyclic heavenly seal. He wanted to deal with Yan Zhaoge's palm force from the side, helping to relieve some of the burden of executing the yin-yang earth heaven breaking hammer with his other hand. Open! Yan Zhaoge was unafraid as he abruptly changed his stance. Light and darkness were separated. The darkness melted away, and light shone brightly. In the next moment, the light shattered, and the great Tao no longer existed. Its powerful destructive power forcibly shattered the black and white Taiji diagram, formed of the black-clothed brocade emperor's Taiji yin-yang palm, smashing apart the heavy earth created by Wang Zhengcheng's yin-yang earth-heaven breaking hammer. Both of them frowned. What a violent fist technique! The black-clothed brocade emperor retracted his move. The grand commencement divine finger could be used both offensively and defensively as it met and blocked Yan Zhaoge's fist. The figure of the earth, exalt Wang Zhengcheng, sank completely within the dense yin-yang earth spirit soil as he once more executed the heaven-earth origin returning mother fist to resist Yan Zhaoge's attacks. Having gained the initiative with a single move, Yan Zhaoge roared towards the heavens, changing his stance once more. He simultaneously raised his hands, a sword appearing within each of them. The cloud circulating heavenly light sword on one side, and the evil sword Tao Tai on the other. The next moment, the two swords simultaneously descended, chopping towards the black-clothed brocade emperor and Wang Zhengcheng, respectively. Streams of true essence surged above Yan Zhaoge's head, yin and yang intermingling as the turtle and snake coiled, tough and soft coexisting. The true spirit of true martial manifested, suppressing the many heavens. The avatars of true martial also condensed on the tips of Yan Zhaoge's swords. The next moment, blood spilled from true martial. Countless ferocious sword lights shot out from the bodies of the two Xuanwu tortoises, transforming into sharp flashes of light as they hacked towards Yan Zhaoge's two opponents. This sword art, the black-clothed brocade emperor immediately discovered something unusual. He had previously seen Yan Zhaoge's slaying azure dragon. Yan Zhaoge had integrated some of the profundities of the immortal exterminating sword into his slaying azure dragon back, then as well. Now, however, it was a sword art that was completely executed by the immortal exterminating sword. the yin-yang heavenly scripture of the jade-clear lineage, nourished the image of the turtle and snake coiling Xuanwu formed of the Xuanwu fist scripture, before slaying the Xuanwu with the immortal exterminating sword, collapsing yin and yang as it broke through various principles. While referencing the swords of the prime clear lineage, the sword arts of the prime clear lineage were not externally manifested, as they were instead converted into supreme martial arts of the jade clear and grand clear lineage, as swords that broke through all arts. It was not brutal and decisive like the slaying azure dragon, which slaughtered all life forms. Still, it was more proficient in attacking, as it specifically targeted opponents with strong defenses. As his fingertip clashed with the tip of the cloud circulating heavenly light sword, the black-clothed brocade emperor emitted a muffled groan as he stumbled backwards. While he was still uninjured, radiance flickered on the tip of his index finger, which had forcibly received Yen Zhaoga's sword earlier, circulating unceasingly as it was hard to condense. With just a thought, the black-clothed brocade emperor actually felt as though he was unable to unleash the grand commencement divine finger for the time being. Meanwhile, the evil sword Taotai was devouring the yin-yang earth spirit soil on a large scale as its sharp slaying Xuanwu sword broke through the layers of soil, arriving directly before the earth exalt Wang Zhengcheng. Beneath that sword, if not for the timely protection of the yin-yang earth mountain river diagram, Wang Zhengcheng's forehead would very nearly have been pierced through by Yen Zhaoga's sword. The two experts surrounding Yen Zhaoga roared in unison as they both retreated to the side. They stabilized their footing, gazing at Yen Zhaoga as they both felt heavy-hearted. If one were to say that Yen Di, Nie Jingshen, and Qin Qianhua were all shockingly talented, being able to resist true immortals as human exalts, then how could one describe the terrifying might of Yen Zhaoga, who was merely a 9th-level martial saint? In this clash just now, Yen Zhaoga had no longer relied on the yin-yang heavenly scripture to teleport, as he had instead forcibly repelled the two of them in a head-on clash. Even though his sword arts were supreme and profound, how much accumulated true essence would he have to have been able to sustain him in executing such a powerful attack, simultaneously clashing head-on with two experts? Even though the black-clothed brocade emperor and the earth exalt Wang Zhengcheng were knowledgeable and experienced, they still found it hard to comprehend this at this moment. Cyclic heavenly scripture, life creation heavenly scripture, yin-yang heavenly scripture, taiji yin-yang palm, even with the grand plainness immeasurable body and the grand beginning bright emptiness form, they would still be unable to sustain his expenditure like this. The two looked at Yen Zhaoga with inconceivable expressions. How did he do it? Yen Zhaoga exhaled slowly after simultaneously repelling the two experts with his two swords. His aura was black and white as it flowed in an endless stream. As he inhaled and exhaled, his aura flowed far and wide as it rapidly recovered to its peak state. He pointed his sword towards the two opponents before him. While he did not say anything, his meaning was clear. The black-clothed brocade emperor and Wang Zhengcheng glared at Yen Zhaoga. Now, in the distant world beyond worlds, a distortion suddenly occurred at the edge of the boundaries of the world. A tyrannical, majestic saber light passed through the power of dimensions as it virtually seemed about to transmit into extra-dimensional space. Accompanying, it was a dense chi of blood and death. Yen Zhaoga did not look back as he said slowly, "This is the second human exalt to perish beneath my father's saber." Chapter 11:57. Feeling that resolute killing intent and the scattered death chi amid space, a shocking glow erupted from the gaze of the earth, exalt Wang Zhengcheng. He gazed at the gradually healing boundaries of the world beyond worlds, gazing at that gradually fading saber light, and feeling that withering life force, not speaking for a long time. Wang Zhengcheng clearly knew that Yen Zhaoga was not bluffing. Instead, another human exalt had truly been slain by Yen Di after the southern exalt Zhuangshen. Having just clashed with Yen Di, Wang Zhengcheng would definitely not be mistaken about that majestic, tyrannical saber-light. This saber had already declared that today's matters had come to an end. It was just that had their scheme succeeded or not. Had Yan Di rushed to kill Xue Chuqing before she died, saving his wife, or had he been a step too late, helplessly killing to vent his anger? So it is the Eastern Exalt, Taoist One Heaven. Yan Zhaoge said mildly. After Zhuang Shen perished, other than Upper Chen and you, the Earth Exalt, there is only Taoist One Heaven, who cultivates in the longevity martial scripture, who could still possess such dense, vigorous life force. He gazed at Wang Zhengcheng. Did my mother's master perish because of Taoist One Heaven? Wang Zhengcheng was silent as his gaze shifted between Yan Zhaoge and the distant world beyond worlds. After a while, he shook his head. Since the outcome had already been decided, there was no longer a need for him to continue battling Yan Zhaoge. Taoist One Heaven had perished, Xue Chuqing dead, or alive. Yan Di had already arrived now. Even if Wang Zhengcheng chased after him, he had no confidence of being able to do anything against Yan Di's saber. The reason he had been able to persuade the black-clothed brocade emperor to act aside from a deal was that he himself hoped to analyze the Tai fist through clashing with Yan Zhaoge. Therefore, the black-clothed brocade emperor would only be fighting Yan Zhaoge this time. He would not participate in fighting anyone else. Wang Zhengcheng's greatest regret now was that he had been too conservative earlier. He had sought too much stability in intercepting Yan Di earlier. Opening the heavens countered Tai. Bolstered by the Yin-Yang Earth-Mountain River diagram, Wang Zhengcheng's Yin-Yang Earth-Heaven breaking hammer could instead pose a threat to Yan Di. In a one-on-one battle, he only wanted to delay and entangle his opponent. On the other hand, it was true that he rarely had the opportunity to take the initiative to attack. After the Upper Exalt Chen Qianhua had arrived, the most suitable method was actually for him, Wang Zhengcheng, to be the main attacker, while Chen Qianhua was the main defender, the two of them joining forces to deal with Yan Di. While it was not easy for Chen Qianhua's foundation of the world to block Yan Di's saber when he executed his various defensive supreme arts and focused on defense, he was still able to deal with Wang Zhengcheng somewhat. Wang Zhengcheng would be able to make use of this chance to attack. Unfortunately, Wang Zhengcheng was too conservative. Moreover, he did not know Chen Qianhua well enough. He did not expect that Chen Qianhua would not use his immortal artifact, the Heavenly Heart Ruler, from the start to the end. Instead, Chen Qianhua just left like that. Through his observation of this battle, Wang Zhengcheng felt that Chen Qianhua would probably not mind him joining forces to attack Yan Di. After understanding all of this, Wang Zhengcheng could only regret it. Now that things had come to this, even if he had other ideas, he was powerless. As these thoughts flashed through the black-clothed brocade emperor's mind, he had already understood the situation as he guessed Wang Zhengcheng's intentions. For a moment, he was caught in a dilemma, and his heart was constantly deliberating. Now, a powerful light suddenly surged into existence in the distant world beyond worlds. Close to where the three were clashing, sword chi shot into the heavens from the world beyond worlds, directly breaking through dimensional boundaries as it arrived in extra-dimensional space where they were. Feeling that sword intent that surged to the heavens, a shocking glow erupted from the eyes of the black-clothed brocade emperor and Wang Zhengcheng. A sword light that seemed like it could open up a whole new world shot out of the world beyond worlds, cleaving through space. Where the sword light passed, numerous worlds were actually birthed from amidst the space of nothingness. Numerous small foreign dimensions that resembled bubbles appeared amidst space just like that, forming a line as they arrived before the three. While these foreign dimensions were still extremely primitive and crude, they had already begun to take shape. After a long period of time, they might possess their own independent laws, evolving into life, mountains, rivers, and lakes. looking at that sword light. While this was the first time Yen Zhaoge was personally witnessing it, he knew its origins. It was precisely the origin opening sword, the leakless, immortal artifact that the sword's sovereign Yuzhenbei had once used. The origin opening sword. Wang Pu had indeed sent this sword over to Yen Zhaoge. The black-clothed brocade emperor's figure rapidly descended, meeting the incoming sword light as he wanted to obstruct it midway. No communication was required as the earth exalt Wang. Zhengcheng blocked Yen Zhaoge at the same time. The spiritual force of the yin-yang earth-mountain river diagram was stimulated to the limits of what Wang Zhengcheng could control. Numerous layers of yin-yang earth spirit soil agglomerated, transforming into continuous mountains. At first glance, it actually seemed like the entire Kunlun mountain had been shifted outside of the world beyond worlds, into this region of space. The earlier clash had already allowed them to sufficiently witness Yen Zhaoge's strength. If the origin opening sword were to fall into Yen Zhaoge's hands now, it would definitely rise to an incomparably terrifying level. Even though Yen Zhaoge was not of Jade Capital Crag's lineage, this being his first time coming into contact with the origin opening sword. Still, with his cultivation base and attainments in the Tao of the Sword, if he were to obtain the origin opening sword, neither the black-clothed brocade emperor nor Wang Zhengcheng would have an easy time. The origin opening sword had to be intercepted. If they could temporarily snatch the origin opening sword, even if they were unable to use it, it would still be better than if it had fallen into Yen Zhaoge's hands. As soon as he saw the sword light of the origin opening sword, Yen Zhaoge's figure immediately descended, meeting it. Yen Zhaoge did not evade Wang Zhengcheng's obstruction. The dazzling purple light of thunder instead erupted from within his pupils. An instant's thunder. All light abruptly dimmed amid space for an instant. There were only thunderbolts that shocked the heavens, which mightily erupted at this instant. Yen Zhaoge's entire body was enveloped by thunderbolts as he transformed into a streak of thunder, mightily descending, piercing through the mountains and the great earth that obstructed him. The radiance did not cease in its momentum as it pursued the black-clothed brocade emperor. The black-clothed brocade emperor did not halt as he expanded the grand, beginning bright emptiness form, shifting space as he first arrived beside the origin opening sword. Relying on his leakless true immortal body, he attempted to forcibly receive Yen Zhaoge's blow as he still persisted in grabbing towards the origin opening sword. Yet, red light flickered within Yen Zhaoge's eyes as he secretly circulated the profundities of the immortal trapping sword manual, instantly arriving beside the black-clothed brocade emperor. Then, a heavy cyclic heavenly seal descended, directly sending the black-clothed brocade emperor flying downwards. Yen Zhaoge halted, standing in midair as he made a grabbing motion. An ancient sword that was pure white in color and flickered with a faint golden radiance landed within Yen Zhaoge's palm. Seeing that the origin opening sword had fallen into Yen Zhaoge's hands, the black-clothed brocade emperor did not hesitate in the slightest as his figure flickered, immediately fleeing far away. Yen Zhaoge slowly brandished his sword, space before him being split into two wherever his sword light passed. Black-clothed brocade emperor, receive another sword of mine, now. An unprecedentedly massive azure dragon traversed extra-dimensional space in pursuit of the black-clothed brocade emperor. Halfway there, blood suddenly spurted from within the azure dragon's body, streaks of dark red blood-red light that shocked the heavens as they transformed into infinite blood-red light, which suffused space. Chapter 11:58. Yen Zhaoge executed a slaying azure dragon that was ferocious to the extreme, the sword glow of the origin opening sword skyrocketing, transforming into a mournful blood-red glow which hacked straight towards the black-clothed brocade emperor. The black-clothed brocade emperor did not even look back as he fled amidst space, but with a muffled groan, Dark red blood could still be seen spurting out from the dark universe. The splattered blood was shining with a faint golden light. The blood droplets exploded in the void, turning into blood-colored Taiji diagrams that did not dissipate for a long time. A perfected, immortal great emperor had been severely injured, yet the black-clothed brocade emperor did not resist, nor did he stop as he instead accelerated forward, instantly vanishing amidst pitch-black space. Yen Zhaoge, who had caused a true, immortal to bleed, had a calm expression on his face as he gazed towards the other side. There, seeing that the origin opening sword had ultimately fallen into Yen Zhaoge's hands, the Earth Exalt Wang Zhengcheng sighed, helplessly, just like the black-clothed brocade emperor. Wang Zhengcheng no longer put up any effort as he swept along the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram and fled towards the distant world beyond worlds. Now that things had come to this, he had no other choice. There was no point in staying any longer. After forcing the black-clothed brocade emperor away with a sword, Yen Zhaoge did not pursue him as he instead pursued the Earth Exalt, Wang Zhengcheng. One fleeing, one pursuing, the two rapidly broke through the power of dimensions, returning to the world beyond worlds. The misty T-mountain area of the eastern vast heaven territory reappeared in front of them. The scenery was still the same, but the mood of the people involved was completely different. Wang Zhengcheng did not dare to tarry in the slightest. He passed through the border between the central June Heaven territory and the eastern vast heaven territory, rushing towards Kunlun Mountain as fast as he could. The Qilin Cliff lineage's martial arts inheritance specialized in being forceful and heavy. They had no advantage in terms of speed. However, at this moment, Wang Zhengcheng unfurled the Yin-Yang Earth Mountain River diagram, sinking his entire body into the ground and using the Earth movement art. Borrowing the power of the Earth escape, his speed was extremely fast, far surpassing that of ordinary martial artists. Sadly, while he was fast, Yen Zhaoge was even faster, experiencing consecutive peak battles and having just unleashed an instant's thunder. Yen Zhaoge vaguely felt his strength being depleted at this moment. However, with the help of the origin opening sword, his figure was still extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he successfully caught up to Wang Zhengcheng. Yen Zhaoge gazed at the emperor before him and suddenly yelled. The majestic sword light slashed through the air and landed on the ground, creating a huge rift in the ground. The rift stretched across the horizon, and one couldn't see the end of it. The sword light was like a barrier, landing right in front of Wang Zhengcheng, who was using the ground travel technique, blocking his path. Yen Zhaoge raised his palm and slammed downwards, causing the great earth to collapse as the fertile soil of the mountains and rivers all shattered. Wang Zhengcheng had no choice but to stop. He rushed out of the soil and returned to the surface, looking at the vast Kunlun mountain range that had already appeared in his field of vision, but it seemed to be so close yet so far away. Wang Zhengcheng was silent. Earth Supreme, old Mr. Wang Zhengcheng, sword in one hand, the other behind his back. Yen Zhaoge stood before Wang Zhengcheng, not having stained your hands with blood. Do you think that the matter of killing someone has nothing to do with you? Taoist, one heaven has been executed, but this matter isn't over. It's like that for our family of three, and I believe it's the same for you. Yen Zhaoge looked coldly at Wang Zhengcheng. Even if my mother was fortunate enough to escape this tribulation today, and you managed to keep your life, I'm afraid that you still wouldn't let the matter rest, right? That's right. Wang Zhengcheng was silent for a long time before he finally said candidly, "This matter does not concern this old man personally. I really cannot ignore it. I admire your honesty and stubbornness. Still, it is precisely because of this that the two of us are irreconcilable," Yen Zhaoge said mildly. "Unless the concealed sovereign emerges from seclusion or the earthly sovereign returns, you are dead, for sure today." His calm words contained a resolute killing intent that was not concealed in the slightest. Wang Zhengqing's expression was calm. It was not this old man's wish to offend you and your father. Still, fate makes fools of people. Knowing how difficult it is, this old man cannot back down. Looking at Yan Zhaoge, appraising him once more, he sighed emotionally. So young. So young, so brimming with talent. So long as you do not die prematurely, you will definitely become the new pillar of our Taoism. It is truly a blessing for our Taoism to have you and your father appear. Yet, it just so happened that it was ruined at the hands of dim radiant Yin and bright connection, who, what a pity, what a pity. Wang Zhengcheng slowly shook his head. While you met with a calamity because of the immeasurable heavenly Lord, your future was ruined. Your father has also stably displayed outstanding flair. If you are given time, your futures will be limitless. I have troubled you. Earth exalt, Yan Zhaoge said indifferently. For the world beyond worlds to be able to attain its current state all these years, it must have been thanks to your efforts. You, Earth exalt, have always been watching over the world beyond worlds. You have also worked hard. It is just that with regards to the immortal court, other matters aside, whether it is my father or I, as the people involved, cannot possibly compromise and tolerate the matter of my mother. Wang Zhengqing's gaze was distant. Compromise and tolerate. In this world, there are some things that we must persevere on. Yet, there are also some things that we can only tolerate. This old man does not dare to claim any credit for the world beyond worlds being able to achieve its current state. That is the result of the countless efforts of my master and the countless sacrifices of many seniors in exchange for its current stable situation. Amongst them is also your ancestor, the exalted gold luminary. Looking at Yan Zhaoge, Wang Zhengcheng finally felt a little agitated as he said rather painfully, "It is only through the sacrifice of countless seniors, your ancestor included, that the world beyond worlds of today has been able to achieve the current state of Taoism, that the future and hope of our generation exists. And now, all of this may be ruined by dim, radiant, and bright connection, who, a great mistake has already been made. If we do not think of mending the pen after the sheep is lost and make up for it when it is truly irreversible, it will all be too late for regrets." Wang Zhengqing said in a heavy tone. Yan Zhaoge's expression was calm. "I originally thought that it was precisely because we had experienced those dark, dangerous times that the older generation understood the principle of being prepared for danger in times of peace. Instead, it was us of the younger generation who were born in relatively peaceful times who were more prone to making the mistake of forgetting to fight and being doomed to die. No, the mistake you are more prone to make is youthful arrogance, biting off more than you can chew, being impetuous and blindly optimistic." Wang Zhengcheng sighed. "While you have been to the immortal court, you probably still do not know how many bigwigs and experts there are in the immortal court, how deep and terrifying their power is. You do not even know how heaven-piercing the cultivation base of the immeasurable heavenly Lord is. What sort of existence do you think he must have been able to stand against the future Buddha?" Looking at Yan Zhaoge, Wang Zhengcheng said in a heavy tone, "We of the three clear lineage will never submit to the external Tao or the false Tao. Still, if we want to set things right, we cannot just rely on our hot-bloodedness. We need time, we need accumulation, we need fortuitous encounters." Looking at Wang Zhengcheng, Yan Zhaoge suddenly smiled, just that his smile was rather cold. "Very well said, Earth exalt. I almost forgot that it was you who sent Taoist One Heaven to find trouble with my mother." The smile on Yan Zhaoge's face vanished. "Others aside, if Taoist One Heaven succeeds, my mother will die for sure. If it is to contend with the immortal court and quell their rage, the focus would be on that fragment of the legendary heavenly essence stone, and not my mother's life. Yen Zhaoge stared coldly at Wang Zhengcheng. Only by leaving behind the heavenly essence stone fragment and still having to account to the immortal court would my mother have to pay with her life. No, it should be said that the lineages of the dim, radiant emperor and the bright connection emperor must be severed. Chapter 1159. Intending to leave behind the heavenly essence stone fragment, it shows that you, the Earth Exalt, also know its importance. Yen Zhaoge looked at Wang Zhengcheng. After a moment of silence, Wang Zhengcheng said, "For the immeasurable heavenly Lord to think so highly of it, it must be something extraordinary. Although I am not sure of its specific effects, it is an important treasure." Yen Zhaoge said coldly, "If it really is, as the dim radiant emperor says, his merits are immeasurable, while your actions are truly disappointing. If the immeasurable heavenly Lord has truly obtained the heavenly essence stone fragment and can illuminate even immortal realm experts of our Taoism, then the dim radiant emperor's actions would indeed be of great merit." Wang Zhengcheng nodded. "However, even if that's the case, everything that follows is unavoidable. After all, the situation is stronger than the person. The immeasurable heavenly Lord losing the heavenly essence stone fragment only made him unable to take a step ahead of us and slowed down his pace." Wang Zhengcheng said calmly, "If our Orthodox Tao sect wants to revive as soon as possible, we still need time. While I might be unreasonable, there is nothing I can do about it. On one side are a few people, while on the other is the entire world beyond worlds. This old man has no other choice." Wang Zhengcheng said, "In order to buy more time, in order to set things right in the end, there are some prices we have to pay." Yen Zhaoge raised the origin opening sword in his hand, saying indifferently, "Since that is so, I invite you, Earth Exalt, to pay this price. If you need me to give up this body of mine, I won't say anything. Unfortunately, the immortal court doesn't want my old bones." Wang Zhengcheng's expression was calm. Yen Zhaoge pointed at the tip of his nose. "My mother is a descendant of the bright connection emperor, while I seem to be viewed as a descendant of the dim radiant emperor. Misfortune may be accompanied by fortune, and misfortune lurks within." Wang Zhengcheng was silent for a moment before he said, "Sometimes fortune is also a calamity. Fallen deity, you really shouldn't have coveted the legacy of the dim radiant emperor back then. What will happen to me? Earth Exalt, don't worry about me anymore. Worry about yourself." Yen Zhaoge said coldly, "If the immortal court doesn't accept your old bones, I'll take it." The magnificent sword light descended from the sky, broke through the layers of yin-yang spirit soil, and slashed towards Wang Zhengcheng. Wang Zhengcheng did not resign himself to his fate. He rolled up the yin-yang earth mountain river diagram and tried to rush to Mount Kunlun. As long as he could return to the Kirin Cliff successfully, he would be safe due to the restrictive spell left by the earthly sovereign. However, at this moment, Yen Zhaoge's sword light turned from sharp and fierce to light and agile, traversing through the layers of soil. Then, within the sword light, wisps of white gas suddenly appeared. A terrifying aura that could exterminate all living things. Celestial slashing sword. You really do know the prime clear swordsmanship. Wang Zhengcheng was shocked as he saw the layers of spirit soil shattering under the white qi. Yen Zhaoge roared in a low tone, the sword light flying out of his hand and circling in midair as it forcibly separated Wang Zhengcheng from the yin-yang earth mountain river diagram. Then he took a step forward and struck with the flipping sky seal. Wang Zhengcheng blocked with both hands. Yet, without the yin-yang earth mountain river diagram, how could he withstand Yen Zhaoge's cyclic heavenly seal? He was immediately sent flying by a palm strike. Yen Zhaoge ignored the yin-yang earth mountain river diagram that was currently entangled with the origin opening sword, not halting in his footsteps as he came before Wang Zhengcheng once more. "The young are frivolous, the old will regret. Wang Jingqing's arms were broken, blood leaking from the corners of his mouth, as he coughed repeatedly. It is just that your talent as a fallen deity has been being wasted. Ugh. Before he had finished speaking, Yan Zhaoge had already punched out once more, striking him squarely in the chest. The terrifying destructive power of the great shattering brightness fist directly shattered Wang Jingqing's flesh and blood. Yan Zhaoge's fist resembled the sharp tip of a great spear as it pierced through Wang Jingqing's chest. It was all thanks to the dense and vigorous martial arts of Qilin Cliff that Wang Jingqing had not died despite having his chest pierced. Even so, with his cultivation base and the toughness of his fleshly body, he was currently unable to move at all. Fresh blood spurted out unceasingly from his mouth and nose as he breathed in more than he breathed out. Whether I am talented or not is my own business. Even if I am ruined, it will not be by your hands. You should worry less about this, Earth Exalt, Yan Zhaoge said mildly. Instead, you should be more concerned about yourself. The current situation really concerns your heart, Meng Qi said. Wang Zhongcheng was virtually already unable to speak. Still, he could clearly feel that his heart was being gripped in someone's hand. His chest had been pierced through by Yan Zhaoge, a large hole opening up. From the front, Yan Zhaoge's arm was pierced through his chest. From the back, Yan Zhaoge's hand could be seen amidst the mangled flesh and blood on Wang Jingqing's back, grabbing a beating heart. As Yan Zhaoge's fingers tightened, Wang Jingqing's face instantly turned from pale to purplish red. Show mercy! Now, a cry resounded from the distance as someone was rapidly approaching from Kunlun Mountain. The encompassing emperor. Show mercy, fallen deity. Do not be rash. The encompassing emperor wanted to approach, but Yan Zhaoge exerted force with his fingers as Wang Jingqing's face virtually turned purplish black. Helpless, the encompassing emperor could only halt, saying anxiously, "You must not be rash, fallen deity. Otherwise, things will truly get out of hand." Yan Zhaoge had a calm expression on his face. "Forgive this Yan for not being able to meet you now, encompassing emperor." "Let's not talk about that." The encompassing emperor smiled bitterly as he said anxiously, "Release the Earth Exalt first. With how heavily injured he is now, his life will be in danger if he is not treated in time." A baffled expression appeared on Yan Zhaoge's face. "I was prepared to beat him to death in the first place. Fallen deity, your future is bright. Do not make a mistake." The encompassing emperor said in a heavy tone, "This old man already knows about what happened earlier. It is not that there is no way to turn things around. Still, if the Earth Exalt dies at your hands, things will truly get out of hand. I am still not very certain about my mother's current safety," Yan Zhaoge said mildly. "If she is harmed, things will already be out of hand." The encompassing emperor said, "There is still a chance. Still, if the Earth Exalt dies at your hands, even the Sword Sovereign will not be able to protect you." Yan Zhaoge looked calmly at the encompassing emperor, a hint of a smile suddenly appearing at the corners of his mouth. "If you really wanted to mediate, encompassing emperor, why did you not first dissuade the Earth Exalt and the Heaven Emperor from doing so? When they were obstructing me and my father, attempting to kill my mother, what were you doing, encompassing emperor?" The encompassing emperor was silent for a moment. "I understand. If they could silently kill my mother without my father and me noticing, you would actually have tacitly agreed to it," Yan Zhaoge said calmly. "Still, if we had detected it, you would not have wished for Wang Jingqing's group to succeed, resulting in an official conflict between the two sides." The encompassing emperor had just wanted to speak when Yan Zhaoge suddenly smiled. "I should be thanking you because I learnt something through you. From the direction you came from over at Kunlun Mountain, it was not your cave manner, the myriad phenomena cave of Round Intelligence Ridge. Instead, You came from the concealed sovereign's restful immortal valley? Hearing his words, the encompassing emperor's expression changed slightly. It looks like the concealed sovereign has indeed yet to emerge from seclusion. Yan Zhaoge turned to look at Wang Zhengqing, his smile growing wider as he revealed a mouthful of neat white teeth. It looks like your luck is not good enough. He exerted force with his fingers, Wang Zhengqing's heart instantly transforming into a mist of blood. The force surged along his bloodline, resembling numerous thunderbolts, as it completely shattered Wang Zhengqing's other internal organs as well. Then came the flesh, blood, and bones of his entire body. Finally, even his soul exploded along with it.